Chapter 1148. I can't get any closer. Those experts want to kill me, and they're all experts. It's best if I don't get involved. I'll find the secret passage from the map and enter the Emperor's training ground first. Since they weren't going to kill him, Su Fang began to think of a way. He stared at the scene of slaughter in front of him. Huang Fu Fei, Fairy Xuanxin, Li Tianqi, Long Xiaojun, Yen Xinxin, the experts of the devil world, and so many other experts. You can slowly kill them all. Everything will belong to me, Su Fang. In an instant, he found the location of the secret passage from the map in his mind. Looking to the right, near the statue of the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor, there were cold rocks, as well as some devil pillars, altars, and sacrificial statues. And the secret passage was deep in there. Hiding his aura and controlling his devil chi, he let out the blood hell wolf smoke. His entire body seemed to have turned into a cloud of devil chi as he moved forward. In the center of the underground palace, the experts were still fighting. Su Fang had Immortal Heizgu continue to pay attention to the movements of the four major powers. He also took another look at Fairy Xuanxin. Fortunately, she was strong enough to fight a Devil Dao expert. There were also experts from the Clear Skies, Thousand Scrolls Gate helping her. With so many experts around, I believe that no matter how vicious Yen Xinxin is, he won't do anything to her. Furthermore, he's focused on Huang Fu Fei, the #1 beauty of the constellation of 9 heavens and the #1 disciple of Huayan Shinrikyo are a perfect match. 10 breaths later, he arrived at a large number of devil pillars and sacrificial statues. Flying deeper, he saw that these sacrificial items were just decorations and not treasures. They were carved from stone, and there was nothing special about them. There were no nether guards here, and the statues were lifeless. It's this devil platform. Su Fang suddenly found a large black rock among the devil pillars. He felt that it was about to place something. When he came to the top of the rock, there was a slight depression in the center, like the bottom of a basin. Secret passage, wasn't it just an ordinary rock? Looking around and confirming that there was no one around, Su Fang immediately activated a seal. Buzz. 2 figures suddenly, one on the left and one on the right. One was ancient Devil Baishan, the other was Yin Qianlu. This was the will they had left behind in Su Fang's mind. After the 2 Dharma protectors appeared, their wills continued to sit cross-legged, as though they were somehow connected to the Devil Stone. Therefore, when the 2 of them arrived at the center of the Devil Stone, they did not do anything. They only released some devil chi, and when their wills revealed some devil light, the center of the Devil Stone also revealed a devil light, but this devil light was a blood-red light. The blood-red light then gradually became a blood eye. This eye was the entrance to the Emperor to the tomb. Young man, the 2 of us have completed our mission. Now, use the Yellow Springs Blood Sea to meet the will of the Great Emperor. Once you obtain the inheritance of the Great Emperor, whatever path you take next will be your own business. It has nothing to do with us or the Great Emperor. We hope that you can find the answer. Our will accompany you forever. We hope that we can follow you to the other side of cultivation. Qi Ancient Devil Baishan and Yin Qianlio's consciousnesses emitted a faint sound. Before Su Fang could react, they burned into a demonic light and drilled into Su Fang's eyes again. Seniors, I, Su Fang, am confident that I can reach the heights that you have always dreamed of. At this moment, he immediately formed a seal and his body suddenly exploded. His body turned into a pool of blood and slowly entered the blood eye. The moment he entered the blood eye, it felt similar to when he entered the 2 ancient devil training grounds. However, this blood eye gave Su Fang an absolute feeling of profoundness. When he completely entered the blood eye, the Devil Stone returned to normal. Su Fang floated in a blood-colored passage. He began to control the Yellow Spring Blood Sea and flew towards the end. After a while, he found the exit. When he appeared at the exit, he was so frightened that he almost fainted. Why? In front of him were countless statues of humans and monsters. There were at least 10,000 of them. They were tall and majestic. They were lined up neatly and looked towards a huge tomb. As for this place, other than the statues, there were no other treasures. It was different from what Su Fang had imagined. This place should be the same as the two ancient devil training grounds. There should be treasures everywhere. If these statues are nether guards, Su Fang coldly swept his gaze over them and released his senses. Now he knew that the more he thought about something, the more he feared it would come true. After he released his senses, he found that these statues were indeed nether guards. They all contained a certain amount of life and aura. They were even stronger than the nether guards outside. With such an army of nether guards, who would dare to plunder a sovereign's tomb? Young man, come, come. Suddenly, just as Su Fang was thinking about how to not alarm the nether guards, an old man's hoarse voice came from the tomb. Who is it? That scared Su Fang silly. Could there be a living person here? That voice was indeed real. However, the other party didn't answer him. Since the other party had already said so, and there was no other way out, Su Fang mustered up his courage and walked past the nether guard army step by step. As expected, none of the nether guards had awakened. They were completely still. Su Fang let out a sigh of relief. He quickened his pace and walked toward the tomb. When he reached the tomb, he walked up the stairs. At the center of the tomb was a 30-meter-long blood-colored stone coffin. He had been looking forward to seeing it, but now he was filled with apprehension and unease. That was because he sensed the aura of life from the stone coffin. His unease suddenly turned into shock. He cried out in disbelief, "Impossible, impossible! The Yellow Springs Devil Emperor is still alive." Don't be afraid. If he really is alive, he wouldn't be hiding here. At this moment, Law seemed to be paying attention to Su Fang's every action. With Law, Su Fang forced himself to calm down in the shortest time. When he arrived in front of the stone coffin, he saw that it was surrounded by devil seals, devil runes, and a mysterious sealing totem. At the center of the totem was a blood person sitting in the lotus position. The blood person didn't have any facial features. It looked like the nether guards outside. But the blood person wasn't a nether guard. The life aura Su Fang sensed came from the blood person. Furthermore, that aura contained the same blood qi as the Yellow Springs blood sea. That was enough to prove that this blood person was the former Yellow Springs Devil Emperor. The blood man had no facial features, but he spoke in a hoarse and ancient voice. "Young man, I have been waiting for you for so long. Since you are here, you are my successor. I don't care what kind of cultivator you are or what kind of person you are. From now on, you are my successor. You really are the senior Yellow Springs Devil Emperor." Su Fang almost prostrated himself on the ground. "What you see is the undying blood spirit that I refined. When I was killed by the heavenly punishment, I was fortunate to have separated a part of my consciousness and hid it in a treasure. That was how I was able to escape the heavenly punishment and fuse with the blood spirit. That's how I managed to survive until now. You really are the senior Devil Emperor." He was actually talking to a supreme giant from countless years ago. He was still a living being. "I don't want people to call me the Devil Emperor. I'm an emperor, but I don't want to be associated with the devil path. Back then, the Lord of the Devil race sent me a message, telling me to go to the devil world, devour the devil race's sacred blood, and become a part of the devil race. You can just call me the Great Devil Emperor." The blood spirit's voice was still hoarse. "There's not enough time. I've waited for so many years for your arrival." Outside the tomb, there seemed to be 4 major forces gathering their power. "Soon, they'll forcefully break into my training ground. From the moment cultivators enter the tomb, the power of the entire tomb is actually weakening. That's why the entire tomb is disappearing." Junior Su Fang greets Senior Yellow Springs. Su Fang stepped forward and bowed to the blood spirit Yellow Springs Devil Emperor. Su Fang, I've been paying attention to you ever since you came to the outer realm where the tomb is located. You have many tricks up your sleeves, as well as the perfect physique that was still prevalent in my era. You killed enemies that were dozens of times stronger than you as a heavenly immortal. This is the same as what I did back then. You have a shadow of me back then, but I failed and fell on the path of cultivation. In the end, I hid here to avoid the heavenly punishment. The Yellow Springs Devil Emperor was very serene, without a trace of unwillingness or exhaustion. I believe the two guardians have told you about my past. What I want to say is about my cultivation technique and my understanding of reincarnation. Listen carefully. Okay. Su Fang nodded with a solemn face. When I became a genius in the outside world, I accidentally obtained an ancient magic treasure called the Reincarnation Sword. After I fused with this immortal sword, I named it the Yellow Springs Reincarnation Sword. I didn't manage to find out the origin of this sword, nor did I find any clues even after looking through the ancient books. I guess it's a peerless magic treasure created by a certain expert in a certain era in a certain civilization. The Yellow Springs Reincarnation Sword has a supreme Tao technique, called the Great Tao Reincarnation. It's mainly sword intent, but its essence is the Great Tao. After countless years of cultivation, I comprehended the Yellow Springs Reincarnation technique in the process of using the Yellow Springs Reincarnation Sword to carve out a path for myself. I wanted to live forever and become the enemy of heaven and earth. Why can't everything in the world control their own destiny? The Yellow Springs Blood Sea is a peerless cultivation method that I comprehended through body cultivation when I was in the small world. It's a physical cultivation method. When I comprehended the Yellow Springs Reincarnation technique, I wanted to use everything I had mastered to create a real reincarnation, a real immortality. Later, with the Yellow Springs Blood Sea as the origin and the Yellow Springs Reincarnation technique as the divine power, I created the Yellow Springs Immortal World and created the Reincarnation Dharma in it. I used the Reincarnation divine power to cover the entire immortal world so that all the aura, matter, and life in the immortal world could be endlessly multiplied in my Reincarnation divine power. Then, with the Yellow Springs Blood Sea as the origin, I created the immortal blood spirit, which is the blood spirit you see now. Then, with the Reincarnation divine power, I used the Reincarnation divine power to shackle and control the souls and remnant thoughts of those dead or fallen practitioners. I poured the power of reincarnation into the body of the immortal blood spirit, and the result was the perfect birth of a conscious immortal blood spirit. The blood spirit was comprehended from the Yellow Springs Blood Sea. It has a strong life force, but it doesn't have a soul. I let the souls of the dead take over the immortal blood spirit, and then through their own cultivation, the faceless immortal blood spirit would gradually transform into a human appearance. When you heard this, you thought that I had mastered the secret of life and death, and could let the dead be reincarnated in the Yellow Springs immortal world without limit. At that time, I also thought that I had done it. However, later on, these humans who were resurrected by the immortal blood spirit did not abide by the heavenly Tao because they were resurrected in the Yellow Springs immortal world. When they absorbed the natural spiritual chi outside the Yellow Springs immortal world, it was equivalent to absorbing the aura of the heavenly Tao. Thus, these resurrected practitioners were unable to control their bodies, and their consciousness gradually entered the demonic Tao. Killing and lust began to spread throughout the Yellow Springs immortal world. When the blood spirit Netherworld Emperor said this, he suddenly felt a little lonely. Anyone would feel the same if they were in his shoes. Establishing an immortal world, comprehending reincarnation, and allowing others to be resurrected without limit. This was success. Chapter 1149. The Yellow Spring Great Emperor's words were filled with deep recollections. However, for Su Fang, everything he heard was too unreal. In this world, there were immortals who could control the life and death of others. And not just one person, but an entire immortal world. Was this a human? It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was a god. Once the living beings in the Yellow Spring immortal world absorb the natural aura of the heavenly Tao, they will slowly lose their souls and go crazy. At that time, I gradually felt that my samsara of life and death was immature. I was too anxious to crack and master the power of life and death. As a result, the Yellow Spring immortal world attracted the will of the heavenly Tao. At that time, I also fell into a dead end and a bottleneck because of my research on the samsara method. But vaguely, I felt that my time was coming. It wasn't that I didn't have the time to transcend the tribulation and break through to another level, but that there was a kind of heavenly Tao that wanted to destroy the Yellow Spring immortal world. It made me suffer the consequences of activating the forbidden technique. At the last moment, I thought a lot. My Yellow Spring Blood Sea and Yellow Spring Reincarnation technique were only superficial. I was too anxious and distorted the immortal world to resist the heavenly Tao. In the end, many innocent people died tragically with me. It was also the first time in my life that I knew the horror of the heavenly Tao. At that time, the power of heavenly punishment shattered my samsara divine might with just one blow. It also shattered my Tao body and burned my soul, making it impossible for me to exist in a world with the heavenly Tao. I fell. Fortunately, I separated a wisp of my consciousness before. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to tell you all this. The Yellow Spring Great Emperor continued to say this, as if he was paying attention to Su Fang to see his reaction. Su Fang's eyes lit up. Senior, you mean that life can never go against the will of the heavenly Tao. At the same time, when you warned me, you also hoped that someone could subvert everything and complete your samsara method. Then are you afraid? Are you afraid to see my end? I'm afraid. I think everyone is afraid of death. But Junior came from a small world to a large world and experienced too many life and death situations. I suddenly understood a truth. Fear is also death. Why can't I take a gamble? Perhaps then there will be some hope. It seems that the person who can gain the recognition of the two great guardians is indeed the one I've been waiting for. Su Fang, I've only just comprehended the threshold of the art of reincarnation. But you're lucky to be standing at the threshold of the art of reincarnation. You're able to see further. Now that I've fallen, all the past disputes are gone. I can't see what the art of reincarnation and the Yellow Spring Blood Sea will become in your body. But I believe that you can surpass us, the ancient. Sanguis suddenly beckoned to Han Shuo and said, "Come here. This emperor is about to die and it's time for me to end everything. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. In the end, I will pass on everything I had in my life to you." Su Fang was puzzled. Senior, since you're using a young immortal to possess this undying Sanguis, then according to what you said, you won't die. Even if this Sanguis can't, Junior can create another Sanguis in the future to allow Senior to continue living. When Junior is truly strong, I can even reincarnate Senior. No, you don't have that ability. Even the power of the immortal world doesn't have that ability. That's because my consciousness is no longer controlled by the heavenly Taos. Once I leave this tomb and breathe in the natural spiritual energy, or even see the sun, I'll immediately disappear. That's only secondary. There's another reason. Since I'm the loser, I should choose the consequences of my failure. If I don't have that bit of courage, then I'm not the Yellow Springs Grand Emperor. Senior. There's no need to say that. The Yellow Spring Great Emperor's Sanguis suddenly erupted with divine might. It swept Su Fang into the air. The Sanguis also began to form hand seals. Blood chi and divine might began to break out of its body and enter Su Fang's body. The blood chi forcibly entered Su Fang's body, regardless of whether he was willing or not. The Yellow Spring Great Emperor said faintly. His blood-spirit body had already begun to break into fragments, and some ashes were peeling off. Blood-spirit body contains this emperor's blood, which can help your Yellow Spring Blood Sea advance to another level. However, this emperor will not fully assist you in cultivating the yellow spring blood sea because this emperor's yellow spring blood sea is not perfect. Once it is forced upon you, it will greatly limit your future. Since you have already obtained the yellow spring reincarnation technique, I will now place the yellow spring reincarnation sword and the storage ring into your body. All of this emperor's treasures are in there. The treasures this emperor left for you and some of my thoughts over the years are all yours. Senior, you're a heaven's chosen of this generation. Unable to control his body, Su Fang didn't expect the Yellow Spring Great Emperor's consciousness to be so powerful that it could easily control him. This great emperor isn't worthy of being called a heaven's chosen, but it can be considered as having some accomplishments. However, I believe that your accomplishments will be even greater. Originally, this great emperor could plant my consciousness in your mind like the two protectors, but doing so would only harm you. There's something I have to tell you at the last moment. The Sanguis was only left with an afterimage. Its life aura and strength seemed to have disappeared. However, the Yellow Spring Great Emperor's voice was still clear. That's heavenly punishment. Back then, the heavenly punishment that attacked me turned into a giant who called himself Shinja Tianjun. You must be careful of this person. Who was Shinja Tianjun? Controlling the heavenly punishment? Didn't that mean that he controlled the heavenly Tao? He won't tolerate the appearance of another cultivator who defies the heavenly Tao in the future. Therefore, in the depths of the heavenly Tao, there will be a pair of eyes staring at this great emperor's aura, which is you. Therefore, in the future, you must walk your own path of cultivation. Don't follow my old path. Try your best to attract the attention of the heavenly Tao before you achieve great success. At that time, the heavenly Tao will be able to see that you have this great emperor's aura in your body. It will chase you to the ends of the earth and kill you. This junior will bear it in mind. Hearing this, Su Fang shuddered. Doomsday, my successor. Whoosh. The last blood seal that was sitting cross-legged disappeared along with the Yellow Spring Great Emperor's voice. Then, the entire seal collapsed like blood-colored powder. Boom. Having just received the inheritance, Su Fang was about to take another look at the Great Emperor. Unexpectedly, a huge force that seemed to be able to shatter the heavens and the earth came from outside the underground palace. Then, a series of rumbling sounds could be heard. Right in front of the underground palace, a vast light actually cut open a large hole from the entrance all the way to the top. Su Fang was shaken to the point of bleeding from his 7 orifices. When he looked at the entrance, he saw that it was almost 10 miles deep in the Xianguang. In the depths of the Xianguang, there was the aura of the 4 great forces, the constellation of 9 heavens, the Brahma meditation sect, the clear sky myriad scroll gate, and the Huayan Shinrikyo. And in the depths of the Xianguang, Su Fang could vaguely see an old man, about 100 of them, condensing their divine power to control the Xianguang. Master, do you hear me, Master? As the 4 great forces broke into the mausoleum, the voice of immortal Changgu's primordial spirit came from outside the entrance. The 4 great forces are attacking the mausoleum. Su Fang immediately spoke to him. Master, where did you go? I've been trying to contact you, but there was no response. A few breaths ago, I received a message from the upper echelons, saying that I was far away from the central mausoleum. It should be the 4 great sects joining forces to attack the mausoleum. I didn't expect it to be so fast. I encountered a little accident. Fortunately, I'm fine. Take care of yourself. I'll leave the underground palace at any time. Su Fang immediately sealed his primordial spirit and quickly retreated, because there were huge rocks falling in front of him. Rustle, rustle. At this moment, a large number of cultivators rushed out of the mausoleum that had been split open in the Xianguang, all wanting to take the opportunity to obtain the treasures of the Yellow Spring Devil Emperor. Su Fang looked at the Xianguang in the depths of the entrance. A large number of experts from the four great forces were rushing over from the vast outer space, a few miles away from the mausoleum. Once the four great forces entered, it would be difficult for anyone to obtain any benefits. Someone actually beat us to it. No, that person must have obtained the power of the Yellow Spring Devil Emperor long ago, and then secretly sneaked into the mausoleum to obtain the treasures. The treasures are on that person. In the sky above the falling rock, dozens, hundreds of experts rushed over from the underground palace outside the mausoleum. When they saw Su Fong floating above the stone coffin, they were not only shocked, but also unwilling to give up and wanted to kill. Clearly, Su Fong had arrived one step earlier, and all the treasures were in his hands. It's actually him. More Huayan Shinrikyo rushed over from behind, led by the Yen Xin. When he saw the masked Su Fong, he was unable to restrain his anger. We can't let him go. A group of experts from the demon world also rushed over. It was that handsome man. He was still as handsome as before, unlike the other experts from the demon world who had transformed into ugly appearances. When they saw Su Fong, they all wanted to take a bite out of him. Useless trash. You can't kill him, and you let him. Another group of experts rushed over. It was the son of the immortal emperor from the heavenly Tao immortal world, Long Xiaojun. He was also very shocked. Then, Huang Lingyao also came to the side and directly revealed his killing intent. It's him. Another group of experts from the clear skies, Thousand Scrolls Gate appeared. Flying at the front was the number 1 fairy, Fairy Xuanxin. She followed everyone's gaze and saw the masked Su Fong floating above the tomb. She also found it hard to believe. Everyone. The two sides were separated by about 1 li. In the middle was the falling rocks, as well as the crazily rising poisonous gas and demonic fog. Su Fong looked at the crowd. In the blur, he could see many familiar faces. The treasures of the Yellow Spring Devil Emperor belong to me, Ghostface Rakshasa. Of course, I only got a portion of it. There are more treasures that have been sealed and activated by the Great Emperor. Whether you want them or not is your problem. I only need a portion. Arrogant. In an instant, hundreds of experts angrily appeared in front of the entrance. Oh no, the four factions used a formation to seal the outside, and sent countless experts. Hurry up and snatch the treasures. In the depths of the entrance, the experts of the four factions were only about 1 li away. If not for the influence of the rising demonic fog, they would have already reached the bottom. The hundreds of experts were also afraid of the demonic fog that had gone out of control. Because the tomb had been destroyed, everything inside was no longer under the tomb's control. But they still could not hold it in. Those experts activated their magic treasures, unleashing shocking attacks and defenses. They began to dodge the falling rocks, disperse the demonic fog, and kill their way in. Don't forget how many of the guards guarding the great emperor's tomb have been revived. Su Fong was not alarmed. He seemed to have absolute confidence that he could leave this place. His gaze landed on the nether guards below. Because the tomb had been destroyed and cultivators had appeared, these nether guards had already begun to revive. Furthermore, there were giant snakes that rose up and attacked the experts in the air. In the blink of an eye, more nether guards and demonic beasts began to kill their way in. Wooling Goblin, let's find a place to hide. Su Fong released a Xian Guang, and he disappeared into the Wooling Goblin's body. The Wooling Goblin entered the back of the tomb, searching for a place to hide. Su Fong also used the life-shrinking art within his body. Combined with his earth-attributed divine might, he allowed the Wooling Goblin's aura to fuse with the surrounding earth essence. Then, he arrived at some of the paintings and fused them with the stone walls. Chapter 1150. The paintings in the underground palace were vivid and lifelike. In addition, the Wooling Goblin also had the strength of a profound immortal, and its earth elemental ability was amazing. It merged with the stone wall to form a natural stone mark. Su Fang had become a bystander at this time. Far away in the paintings, watching the demon world powerhouses disregard the danger and kill to rob the treasures, Long Xiaojun, Yan Sunxin, and other powerful experts wanted to take advantage of the fact that the four major forces had not officially occupied this place to get something from the great emperor's treasure. Su Fang was in a state of recovery after swallowing the elixir and absorbing the demon qi. His injuries were still very serious. He wanted to take a look at the great emperor's inheritance as soon as possible. I can summon the crucible transformation space and cultivate the yellow spring blood sea in the crucible transformation space. I can now break through the heavenly immortal realm and step into the profound immortal realm at any time. He thought about it. Since he was waiting and couldn't go out now, how could he go out when the entrance of the tomb was controlled by the four major forces? After the crucible transformation space appeared, Su Fang was naturally not worried with the Wooling Goblin's body wrapped around him. However, he also left a young immortal to observe the outside world with the Wooling Goblin. Once there was a chance, he would definitely leave. Now, it was equivalent to being trapped in the great emperor's tomb. Crucible transformation world. The experts who were previously suppressed had all surrendered under the Vermilion Emperor's torture. Everyone went to the Yellow Spring Great Emperor's bottle space to cultivate. At this time, the Crucible transformation world was empty, with only a few magic treasures. The array was condensed, and the body suddenly collapsed, turning into the Yellow Spring Blood Sea. At this time, the Yellow Spring Blood Sea had reached more than 500 feet. It was amazing, twice as big as before. This was the change when the Yellow Spring Great Emperor poured his power into Su Fang's body. Of course, it was not a blessing. For the Great Emperor, the power in the blood spirit was insignificant. However, for a heavenly immortal realm cultivator, it was a heaven-defying power. Every particle of the Great Emperor's power was a primer, the essence of life, containing the powerful will of reincarnation and immortality. Fusing with Su Fang's body meant that the will was also fused with Su Fang. However, Su Fang also had to cultivate to fuse with them to truly possess them. Communicating with the young immortals outside, he knew that in the Demon Emperor's underground palace, the cultivators were still unwilling to give up, but a large number of underworld guards had awakened. It would be very difficult for them to kill their way in. Sizzle. After the Yellow Springs Blood Sea was activated, it instantly boiled. The flame of life naturally burned. At this moment, Su Fang could already feel many natural changes. For example, controlling the Acheron Blood Sea was as easy as controlling a type of mystique. Furthermore, in the state of the Acheron Blood Sea, his great perfection senses were also astonishing. He could instantly activate his blood transformation true body and Black Lotus true body. As for other mystiques, he could finally control them flexibly. He had a feeling that his physical body had changed the moment the Great Emperor entered his inheritance. Then, it became easier to fuse with the Great Emperor's power. There was almost no need for him to cultivate. The Yellow Springs Blood Sea was already in the process of a natural transformation. In the process of cultivation, Su Fang couldn't figure it out. Could it be that the Great Emperor was secretly helping him? But Law's voice came from inside his body. I think it's because you devoured a Dao body. Yu Jingyan, but after I fused with his Dao body, the changes were not too obvious. Your cultivation is not enough, and your strength is not enough. Naturally, you can only devour a portion of the Dao body's power. It just so happens that this portion of the Dao body's power is changing in your body. In the future, the Dao body's power will constantly change as your strength grows. The Yellow Springs Great Emperor is indeed powerful. His power will enter your body and increase your strength in all aspects. It is also equivalent to increasing your Dao body's power. I see. It's because I haven't figured out the Dao body's power. Yu Jingyan's Dao body's power can only be controlled by himself. Moreover, with his cultivation, he can't use it. The desolate physique, Tao body, and divine physique all have different abilities depending on the cultivator. In the future, the Tao body's power will slowly make you stronger. Look at the Yellow Springs Blood Sea now. With the Tao body's power, the Great Emperor's will, and the fusion of power, you have already grasped the basics and can freely control it. I can already feel the power of reincarnation in my body. My vitality is more vigorous than before. The dragon-taming wood and Black Lotus True Body's vitality is also very shocking. Reincarnation. But Law shook his head. I heard everything the Great Emperor said. Although the Great Emperor is powerful, he still hasn't reached the peak. He is indeed too anxious. If he waited until he reached a wider world and grasped more divine abilities, then he would be able to establish an undying world outside the vast stars. Unfortunately, the Great Emperor is like building a car behind closed doors. If there was someone with extraordinary knowledge who warned him, he wouldn't have lost so badly. Law, it seems that you also know a lot about reincarnation. At this moment, Law suddenly became more extraordinary than he imagined. Everyone wants to surpass life and death and control their own destiny. For example, your life-shrinking technique is a forbidden technique that I've never heard of in this world, because no one can control their own destiny, and no one can fight against the will of the heavenly way. Cultivators, at the end of cultivation, all want to be immortal and control the world. However, since ancient times there have been very few successful cultivators, but there are some who have managed to stand at the peak. It's unrealistic to establish immortality among the countless immortal realms. Let's stop here and continue your cultivation. I think the reincarnation sword of the Emperor of Netherworld is very good. Its quality is at the same level as the 10 great Taoist instruments of the immortal realm. Reincarnation. After a moment of silence, Law seemed to calm down. At this moment, the Yellow Springs Blood Sea was still boiling. It would occasionally swallow pills and various powerful resources. Now, some of the experts were also refining middle-grade yin-yang immortal sky pills. The Big Goblin and other experts also had cultivation resources, increasing Su Fang's overall strength. Of course, experts like Monk Shangde and the Ghost Dao's 5 freaks did not see much benefit at the moment, but the yin-yang immortal sky pill was also a rare yang-qi pill for them. The Ghost Dao's 5 freaks were teaching the grand fusion divine art to everyone. Even the monk was cultivating. Bai Ling, Green Feather King, Vermilion Emperor, Undying Turtle, and Skirich Venerable Monster were also cultivating. Su Fang, in the state of the Yellow Springs Blood Sea, activated the Black Lotus True Body. In an instant, sharp Black Lotus blood threads were born. And now it was too terrifying. His Black Lotus blood threads were twice as thick as silk. His vital qi and life force could be cultivated without circulating in his meridians. Last time, Yen Senshin's sword contained the sword intent of the Tao of Destruction and seriously injured Su Fang. In fact, it could have killed Su Fang. But why was he still alive? On one hand, it was the power of perfection and the blood transformation true body. The biggest reason was that the Black Lotus True Body had formed countless Black Lotus blood threads in his body. The number of Black Lotus blood threads even began to surpass his meridians, connecting his body together. In addition, the Black Lotus blood threads were tough and could withstand attack. With so many of them, the Black Lotus blood threads formed a defense of countless blood threads in his body. Together with his other abilities, he managed to survive the strike. About half a month later, Yang Immortal suddenly moved and flew out of the crucible transformation. Sensing outside, he could no longer see the demon realm cultivators, Long Xiaojun, and the expert surnamed Yen from the Tranquility Emperor's residence. There was not much devil qi left. Most of it was natural spirit qi from outside the mausoleum. Therefore, cracking sounds could be heard everywhere. It turned out that the Nether Guards were either standing or in a ferocious state. But they all had one thing in common. They had turned into stone statues and were being eroded bit by bit, turning into dust. It seemed that without devil chi and the protection of the mausoleum's array formation, these nether guards could only start to break when they touched the spirit chi of the outside world. Just like the immortal blood spirit of the great emperor, it could only absorb the power of reincarnation in the Yellow Spring immortal world. But once it absorbed the aura outside the immortal world, it would not be able to control the power of the blood spirit. The nether guards could only exist in the mausoleum. When they touched the aura of the outside world, they would no longer be terrifying nether guards. They would lose all their divine power and become ordinary stone statues. At this moment, a large number of the experts of the four forces were either special disciples, high-ranking members, or elders. Ao Tian Chong Hen. Su Fang sensed a familiar aura. It was the elder of the constellation of 9 heavens, Ao Tian Chong Hen. As for those elders, although they weren't big shots of their respective dojos, they were still existences on par with immortal Changgu. Huang Fu Fei. Another familiar aura came from the other side. Not only did Su Fang sense it, but he also looked over. At the broken entrance of the mausoleum, the experts of the four forces who had fought with the experts in the underground palace were all recuperating and resting. There were 3 auras that Su Fang was most familiar with. One was Huang Fu Fei, the second was Yen Xinxin, and the third was Fairy Xuanxin. Yen Xinxin was actually together with Huang Fu Fei, bypassing countless experts from the 2 forces and even the formation to gather with a few experts in the same formation. Fairy Xuanxin was sitting with her legs crossed. Gu Huajun was nearby too. The experts from the other forces were also cultivating. At the moment, there were at least 10,000 experts from the 4 forces searching in the 4th level of the mausoleum. Su Fang knew that they had sent even more experts to the 3rd level of the mausoleum to search for treasures. As for the exit of the mausoleum, the exit that was connected to the extraterritorial space was already controlled by the formation of the 4 forces. In other words, apart from the disciples of the 4 forces, no one could leave the mausoleum. The 4 forces were very powerful. Soon, a disciple of the constellation of 9 heavens approached the mural where Su Fang was hiding. There were all kinds of disciples searching around. This disciple was the higher-up of Huang Fu Dojo of Star Palace, Huang Fu Yunhai. In reality, he had another identity now. He was Su Fang's second primordial spirit. It turned out that Su Fang was not worried at all because he had the second primordial spirit. He was now Huang Fu Yunhai, a higher-up. He could enter the mausoleum and the formation. The second primordial spirit pretended to search for the entrance. When he touched the Wooling Goblin's mural, he suddenly sucked the Wooling Goblin into his palm. Su Fang and the Wooling Goblin entered Huang Fu Yunhai's body together. The second primordial spirit immediately said, "The 4 forces have already completely controlled the mausoleum of the Yellow Spring Great Emperor." After teaming up to break the mausoleum's formation and defense, be it inside or outside, all disappeared. Now, there is no danger in the mausoleum. The other cultivators who fought for the treasures have all tried their best to escape the mausoleum and hide in different corners of the extraterritorial space outside the mausoleum. The 4 forces did not pursue them. What else? In his body, Su Fang was understanding the whole situation. Of course, everyone is frantically looking for the ghost-faced Azura that I have transformed into. Everyone knows that the Yellow Spring Great Emperor was snatched away by me. The 4 forces and countless cultivators are probably busy looking for you now. Then, from today onwards, the ghost-faced Azura no longer exists. This identity helped me win the inheritance of the Yellow Spring Great Emperor from countless experts. It can also be sealed forever. Suddenly, Su Fang took off the ghost-faced Azura and returned to his original appearance. His body felt light. Even when he was in Huang Fu Yunhai's body, he had never felt so free to breathe. Chapter 1151. The second Yuan spirit was controlling Huang Fu Yunhai's body so that no one would be able to see anything strange. Night Demon's Yuan spirit's power was just that terrifying. She could use her own power to take over other people's bodies, devour their Yuan spirits and consciousness, and then take over their bodies. Most importantly, no one would be able to tell. Huang Fu Yun Hai continued to search the surroundings. After a while, he found an excuse to fly out of the opening above. He flew a few miles to the barrier at the top of the tomb. The barrier was created by the experts of the four major powers, and there were also countless experts guarding it. Let alone Su Fang, even the experts of the devil world wouldn't be able to break through the formation of the four major powers. After checking the medallion, Huang Fu Yun Hai was finally qualified to leave the formation. Yes, it's Fairy Xuanxin and Yen Senshin's auras. He had just flown out of the formation and arrived at the tomb's outer realm. This was still a hopeless situation, and it was still under the abyss of the Huangze astral world. The four major powers had sent so many experts here, so they naturally had a way to get out. But it was hard to say what would happen to the other experts who had come to steal the treasure and were trapped in the outer realm. Suddenly, a thought mysteriously appeared in Su Fang's mind. He contacted Immortal Changgu, and Immortal Changgu, who was currently in the second layer, told Su Fang that the four major powers would most likely need to search for several years before they could leave. In other words, Su Fang could stay in the outer realm for several years, and then think of a way to suppress some experts. Just like when he went to the Nether Earth ruins and suppressed many experts. But right now, he wanted to see Fairy Xuanxin's situation more. Activating his perfect vision, he saw Fairy Xian Xin and Yen Xianxin standing on a huge rock in the mist behind the mausoleum. They were talking about something. Fairy Xuanxin shouted sternly, "Yen Xianxin, there is no need for you to act all lovey-dovey with Huang Fu Fei in front of everyone. You are clearly making things difficult for me in front of everyone. Although I do not care about this, please go far away when you are showing off your affection. Do you know how much I hate you, Xuanxin?" Yen Xianxin turned around and frowned. However, there was a cold smile on her face. "Fairy Xian Xin, you were born with a golden spoon in your mouth. Your grandfather is a supreme elder. What am I, Yen Xianxin, considered to be? I am just an ordinary cultivator who worked hard to become a genius. But when I face you, you know what kind of feelings I have. You are the star in the sky and I have to flatter you. If you are unhappy, my future is gone. I have to spend my energy to please your grandfather and everyone around you. But you are always so high and mighty. Even a smile or a glance from you is like charity. That's because I didn't love you before, but later on I did." Later on, why did you love me? Because I, Yen Senshin, worked hard to gain the favor of the upper echelons of Huayan Shinrikyo and the Clear Skies Myriad Scrolls Gate. Both sides nurtured me, and then I went on many dangerous missions to gain a foothold with my strength. Perhaps many people still think that I relied on you to get to where I am today, but all of this came from my own hand. If I hadn't worked hard to become a key disciple, would you have slowly looked at me, smiled at me, and finally fallen in love with me? So now that you've obtained the twin swords of annihilation, everything you've obtained, you have to pay it back in double. You feel that it was unfair back then. You feel that you were the only one who paid the price, while I didn't pay the price. I didn't care about you. This is a world where results matter. Who cares about the process? Look at that beggar on the side of the road. Everyone sees a pitiful worm, a lapdog. Who would want to know his past and his true identity? We cultivators are the same. Only when we become strong can we be looked up to. If we're weak, we're like beggars no matter where we go. You love me, I love you. Haha, who cares about the process? Now that I have the twin swords of annihilation, the immortal world's 10 great Tao treasures, and even the Clear Skies Myriad Scrolls Gate has to be polite to me. Pfft. Fairy Xuanxin couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. She took a few steps back. I really didn't expect you to be this kind of person. In order to gain my grandfather's favor, in order to make me believe in you, You even changed your name in front of us. You once said that you only have one heart for me, so you're called Yen Sinshin because you only have me, Xuanxin, in your heart. This is what you call the process. There are many things that we should talk about face to face. Back then, you were like a phoenix on a branch in front of me. I had to look up to you. I also had illusions of you like other men, and I was your man. But later on, I realized that love and love can only be absolute with strength. Don't you see that? Now that I have strength, I only need to look at any woman, and she will throw herself into my arms. I once chased you, loved you, and changed my name for you, mainly to gain strength. I only liked you a little bit, so it's fine if I say it clearly. Fairy Xuanxin, I, Yen Sinshin, am ultimately a jade dragon. I will fly out of the pool one day, and this small world will not shackle me. I understand. Indeed, you should understand this kind of pain. In the past, only you were allowed to bring this kind of pain to others. You should understand how I felt in the past, haha. Whoosh. As Yen Sinshin raised his head and laughed, Cha-Na flew away on his sword. That suave figure didn't even leave a shadow behind. At this moment, Fairy Xuanxin also fell to the ground. She couldn't control her blood qi, and it seeped out of her body. Her vital qi and primordial spirit were also being released outside of her body. It was as if her strength was collapsing. Oh no! Su Fang suddenly realized something. Cha-Na fused with his second primordial spirit and entered Huang Fu Yunhai's body. He flew towards the mountain peak, hid his aura in midair, and brought Ghostface Rakshasa with him. In a few breaths, he appeared beside Fairy Xuanxin. She was already unconscious. Her vital qi and primordial spirit were collapsing rapidly. In less than half an hour, she would become immortal. Even her soul would be destroyed. To a woman, the word love is the most fatal weapon. Flame immortal heart, you are a vile person from head to toe. I admit that your talent is extraordinary, and your luck is astonishing. But to use a woman like this, what difference is there between you and a vile person in front of me? He immediately activated the seal and first sealed Fairy Xuanxin. Then, he took her to a secret cave nearby and flashed into it. After setting up the array, he quickly injected the power of the Nine Yang into Fairy Xuanxin's body. At the same time, he took out the Ghost King mask and put it on Huang Fu Yunhai's face. His aura also turned into demonic qi. Not only did he inject the power of the Nine Yang, he also took out pills and released the power of his primordial spirit to help Xuanxin stabilize her divine aperture and suppress the spreading consciousness and dermic powers. Soon, Fairy Xuanxin returned to normal. Her strength stopped seeping out. 2 hours later, her body suddenly trembled and she woke up in a panic. She looked around in fear, and when she saw the familiar Ghostface Rakshasa, she suddenly looked around again. She seemed to think that it should be Yen Sinshin beside her. Fairy, what a coincidence! I was passing by and saw that you fainted. I also saw that your strength was collapsing and your spiritual world was collapsing, so I tried to stop you. After all, I saved you once. I wonder what happened to you? He said in an indifferent tone, pretending that he didn't know anything. I'm fine. I fought with an expert before and was severely injured a few times. She immediately sat up straight, feeling a bit embarrassed. She tidied herself up and said, "We parted ways in the underground palace. I didn't expect you to be the last one to enter the underground palace and get the Thearka's treasure." It seemed that the two of them were the most familiar friends at this moment, but they were even more familiar strangers. Su Fang knew what kind of person Fairy Xuanxin was, so he definitely wouldn't secretly tell the four forces that the masked man who had obtained the Thearka's inheritance was here. He cupped his fists and said, "I'm quite lucky. Everyone fought so hard, but I accidentally triggered a mechanism and was sucked into the Thearka's mausoleum." "Then why did you dare to appear here? Why didn't you think of a way to leave the extraterrestrial space?" Fairy Xuanxin was shocked and puzzled. I can't leave just because I want to. Moreover, everyone thinks that I've already left. Instead, the most dangerous place is also the safest place. Because of this, I wouldn't have met you here. Otherwise, it would be a pity for you to die in this desolate place. Thank you for saving me once again. I don't need to thank you. It's just that I'm able to meet you again and help you this time. I don't know if I'll be fated to save you again after leaving this extraterrestrial space. It seemed that Su Fang was implying something with his words. I'll take my leave now. Now that everyone is looking for me, I naturally have to find a place to hide. Unexpectedly, Su Fang stood up again. You can hide here for a while. I'll release my aura, and no one will be able to sense this place. Fairy Xuanxin was surprised. However, Su Fang stepped out of the array and disappeared without a trace. This person is so mysterious. Who exactly is it? It's rumored that someone saw this person using Huiyan Shinrikyo's cultivation technique. He's related to Huiyan Shinrikyo, but at least he's related to the heavenly Tao immortal realm. This person was able to come here with Dragon Lord. Fairy Xuanxin changed the array and sat down quietly. She emitted cold air and froze the surroundings. Soon, Su Fang had already taken off the demonic Rakshasa and continued to stay in the body of the Cloud Sea host in Huangfu. However, he stopped not far away in a mountain range patrolled by some experts from the four major forces. Monk Shangde and the Ghost Dao's 5 freaks appeared. He looked at the 6 of them and said, I'll give you a mission. This is the extraterrestrial space. I reckon that many cultivators are racking their brains to leave this place. You know many people and are knowledgeable. Persuade those people to join me. I'm an itinerant cultivator who has a way to leave this place. However, if you want to leave with me, you have to become my subordinates and work for me. Yes, sir. The 6 answered. Su Fang then asked, Big Monk, you should know that there's an expert surnamed Yen from the Tranquility Emperor's mansion, right? He was the middle-aged expert who looked somewhat like a leader among the more than 30 of you at that time. That man called himself Yen Imo. He said he came from the Yuan Lu world, not the Tranquility Emperor's mansion at all. The big monk scratched his head because he was still confused. That's Yen Imo. You go look for his whereabouts while you're at it. Don't alert him. He's from the Tranquility Emperor's mansion. If Yen Imo is from the Tranquility Emperor's mansion, why didn't they say so? The Tranquility Emperor's mansion is the most powerful mysterious force in the Xianao Great World. Perhaps they don't want others to know that the Tranquility Emperor's mansion also wants to get the treasures of the Devil Emperor of Netherworld. This time, of course, the Tranquility Emperor's mansion is not the only force that's hiding its identity. Yes, sir. Only then did the 6 of them fly towards the depths of the mountain range. I hope Yen Imo is still in the extraterrestrial space, but he couldn't have come down to this dangerous extraterrestrial space alone. If there's someone from the outside helping the Tranquility Emperor's mansion, Su Fang waited silently and then hid in the dark. Using the identity of Huangfu Yunhai, he cultivated here. Even if the 4 superpowers found him, nothing would go wrong. He absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and then continued to cultivate inside the host body. At the same time, he also sensed the movements around him. Time passed slowly. Of course, Su Fang became more powerful as a whole. It's time to take a look at the inheritance of the great emperor. Now that I'm in the extraterrestrial space, if I can fuse with the underworld Samsara sword, I'll have a better chance to suppress those experts and protect myself. In the depths of the host body, Su Fang called out the Crucible Transformation sword again. He could not wait to enter the Crucible Transformation space. Chapter 1152. Thinking of the great emperor's inheritance and many treasures, his heart surged with excitement. Crucible Transformation space. Alone, he floated in the array. With the void dust crucible transformation, even if any experts outside sensed it, they would not be able to find any aura of the yellow ribbon great emperor's treasure. Spreading out his palm, a peak top-grade storage ring floated in the xianguang. The whole thing was white jade with some white cloud patterns inlaid on it. It fell into the palm of his hand with obvious weight. It was the Yellow Spring True Qi of the Yellow Spring Great Emperor. Every cultivator's True Qi was different, but the Yellow Spring Great Emperor's True Qi contained the Yellow Spring Blood Sea and the power of reincarnation. It did not have the slightest demonic aura. The Yellow Spring Devil Emperor was not a demonic cultivator. Activating the same power, he did not expect the storage ring to have no restriction. How could there be a seal when it came from the Great Emperor's inheritance? His mind entered it in an instant. It was as if he had entered a familiar blood-colored ancient space. He did not expect all kinds of treasures to be floating in the air. It was like a sea of resources, densely packed with all kinds of treasures. They were 10 times heavier than the 100-virtue ancient demon and the 1,000 stream. It was too shocking. Elixirs, secret books, jade, spirit stones, gems, spiritual objects, spirit veins, magic treasures. At a glance, there was everything. He was worthy of being the former lord of an immortal world. Su Fang was stunned for half an hour. He was so shocked that he broke out in a cold sweat. Immediately, he excitedly passed through a large number of treasures and saw hundreds of huge ancient spirit veins. It was not a problem to build a sect with them. In the depths of the magic treasures, the aura of the top-grade magic treasures deeply attracted Su Fang. When he came to the center of the magic treasures, there were more than 100 top-grade Dao tools. The quality was not bad. Some were better than the immortal piercing blade. These were all precious treasures. Most of them were top-grade Dao tools. The aura of a Dao tool is the same as the Yunxiao Thunder Sword. The aura of several magic treasures in the depths was particularly shocking. Among them, there was a seal that was very similar to the Yellow Spring reincarnation art. Su Fang took a step forward and looked carefully. There was a flying sword inside. However, it was not an ordinary flying sword. The aura was as strong and deep as the Yunxiao Thunder Sword. The sword had a 3-foot peak and the word reincarnation on the hilt gave out a strange luster. The Samsara Sword. The Underworld Samsara Sword was a divine weapon used by the Underworld Great Emperor in the past. Good sword attracted Law's praise deep in his body. Su Fang also sighed. It is indeed extraordinary. I feel that it is as powerful as Yun Zhao's Thunder Sword. This is a magic treasure that is as powerful as the 10 great Dao treasures, and it has existed for even longer than the 10 great Dao treasures. It is indeed a good sword, sharp and domineering. Yes. After getting Law's affirmation, Su Fang waved her hand and grabbed it into the seal. Of course, Su Fang had to release the Yellow Spring True Qi. Otherwise, what would he do if the Samsara Sword injured him? Fortunately, the Underworld Samsara Sword didn't reject it. When Su Fang grabbed the sword hilt, the sword suddenly emitted a lively sword cry. There were astonishing patterns on the sword, revealing a beautiful and tireless sword momentum. Master! What was even more unexpected was that the Underworld Samsara Sword would take the initiative to speak. Su Fang was almost scared out of his wits. He calmed down. It seemed that the sword spirit in the Samsara Sword was indeed a peerless treasure. Without fusion, the sword spirit could actively communicate with it. Since you call me master, I won't be polite. Samsara Sword, you used to follow the Underworld Great Emperor and looked down on the world. From now on, you will follow me, Su Fang, and conquer the immortal world again. Yes, master. You only need a drop of blood, and I will take the initiative to fuse with you. Okay. After the sword spirit's reminder, Su Fang flicked his finger, and a drop of essence blood fell on the sword. With a flash of thought, a bloody light appeared, and the blood was swallowed by the Samsara Sword. Then the sword took the initiative to drill into Su Fang's palm. This was the extraordinariness of a peerless Dao treasure. There was a world of difference between it and ordinary Dao treasures. Now he understood why a Yen Sinxin, a special disciple, could release such a peerless power that could shatter the Netherguards. Because he had the dual swords of destruction. Sensing that the Samsara sword was quietly fusing with his body, Su Fong was even more excited. He came to a seal next to him and looked. There was a huge cauldron in this seal. At this time, it was 3 feet high, red and bronze, and had 3 legs. Master. The Samsara sword suddenly introduced in his body. This is the first cauldron used to refine magic treasures when the old master was alive. It is called the Heavenly Cauldron of Good Fortune. Its quality is the same as mine, a king-grade Tao treasure. It is above the best grade Tao treasure. The underworld Great Emperor's bottle that you fused with came from this Heavenly Cauldron of Good Fortune. Good treasure, good treasure. I feel that this cauldron can suppress a big hole in heaven and earth. A peerless Tao treasure cauldron. Su Fong had been looking for a good cauldron. This one was really good. The Heavenly Cauldron of Good Fortune. This cauldron is a powerful Tao treasure refined by the old master's good friend, the dead king. The Samsara sword spirit said tirelessly, the dead king was one of the old master's best friends when he was alive. He practiced evil methods and once became the number 1 person in the evil way. He was as powerful as the old master. The dead king was a good person. With the Heavenly Cauldron of Good Fortune and Su Fong's refining knowledge and methods, he could refine magic treasures in the future. Of course, it could also improve the quality of his Xianwang 6 Paths Pagoda, Flaming Cloud Spiritual Gourd, Starry Daylight Sword, and other magic treasures. He couldn't fuse with such a big cauldron in a short time. He could only look at it and sigh. He came to a seal at the side. Inside it was a long blood-red river that emitted a strong aura of magic treasures. Samsara, what kind of treasure is this? Su Fong stared at the long blood-red river curiously. This is called the Yellow Spring Divine Tao, and it was also one of the old master's greatest regrets. The old master wanted to refine a magic treasure to better control the Yellow Spring immortal world. The Yellow Spring Divine Tao condenses the 2 great abilities of the Yellow Spring Blood Sea and the Yellow Spring Reincarnation Technique. Once it is successfully refined, it can be turned into the origin of the immortal world. Originally, the old master wanted to pass it on to you so that you could continue to refine it. But later, he said that his cultivation method was not perfect, and that you could only refine a magic treasure even more perfect than the Yellow Spring Divine Tao when you truly have the strength. Isn't it a pity? The old master was right. I've followed the old master for so many years. I know his cultivation method like the back of my hand. If it was perfect, it wouldn't have attracted heavenly punishment. Master, you can forget about this magic treasure. You can study it in the future. When you surpass the old master in the future, you will be able to refine a peerless magic treasure on the Yellow Springs Divine Tao. The old master believes that his successor can do it. Fine, it's still a pity. The Yellow Springs Divine Tao. Seeing the blood-red river, Su Fong could imagine what kind of peerless magic treasure the Yellow Springs Great Emperor would refine. He came to another seal. Inside it was also a king-grade Tao artifact. Another king-grade Tao artifact. In the past, he couldn't touch any of them. Now, one after another. In any immortal world, a king-grade Tao artifact was a peerless treasure. That was why so many people were willing to risk their lives to snatch the Yellow Springs Great Emperor's treasure. The king-grade Tao artifact in the seal didn't wait for Su Fong to speak. Unexpectedly, it let out a surprised sound. Law exclaimed, "This should be a very ancient magic treasure. It's called the Xianming Thunder Archive. It's a peerless Tao artifact like the Xianjia Gate. It's famous in ancient times." Su Fong listened and drooled. Xianming Thunder Archive reincarnation, is it? Yes, the mysterious consciousness in your body is really extraordinary. The underworld reincarnation sword should have heard Law's voice. After all, it had fused with Su Fong. It was surprised. There are very few people who can recognize the Xianming Thunder Archive, and even fewer now. He also knows about the Xianjia Gate. This Xianming Thunder Archive and the Xianjia Gate are ancient Tao artifacts. They are both existences of the same level. Your sword spirit is also not bad, but in my era, I have never heard of your existence. Law suddenly spoke to the reincarnation sword spirit. As a treasure, there are very few people in this world who can comprehend the power of reincarnation, so I have been waiting since I came to consciousness. I have met two masters. The Yellow Springs Great Emperor is the second master, and he is much more powerful than the first master. I have heard of the Xianming Thunder Archive, but I have never seen it. Tell us about its origin. Law suddenly became modest. This is a treasure that the old master, the Yellow Springs Great Emperor, left this immortal domain and went to an ancient battlefield of immortals and demons outside the immortal domain. It is also the first magic treasure of the old master. After obtaining the magic treasure, the old master spent many years to fuse with it, but he still could not activate it. It is estimated that he could only activate it once by gathering all his strength. This treasure is very heaven-defying. Like the Xianjia Gate, it is a peerless treasure that has already reached the divine level and has divinity. Moreover, only a peerless cultivator who cultivates the thunder method can activate the Xianming Thunder Archive. It is a thunder magic treasure, and when activated, its power is ranked second in the ancient Taoist field. No one dares to say that it is first. The sword spirit continued. After the old master obtained it, he had never used the Xianming Thunder Archive in his life. The old master did not have amazing attainments in thunder magic, and the consumption of energy to activate it was too shocking. The main reason was that the old master's other abilities and means were brilliant, and he could deal with peerless experts without using such a magic treasure. According to the old master's understanding, the Xianming Thunder Archive was the most powerful magic treasure in ancient times, the Green Cloud Immortal Sect. The great war of immortals and demons engulfed countless immortal domains, and the Green Cloud Immortal Sect was the #1 immortal Tao, and they presided over the war. Later, they disappeared in the war together with the demons. The Green Cloud Immortal Sect was destroyed in the war. Su Fang could not believe it for a long time. After a long time, he looked at the Xianming Thunder Archive, and once again felt its extraordinariness. Indeed, it was floating not far from the heavenly creation cauldron, but the aura it released was absolutely domineering. If it were not for the shackles of the formation, Su Fang would have been shocked to death at this distance. He frowned. By the way, since the great emperor has the Xianming Thunder Archive, why didn't he use it to deal with the heavenly punishment? Kid. Without waiting for the sword spirit to answer, Law smiled coldly. Magic treasures are not omnipotent. This is the first and second reason. The heavenly punishment has already surpassed the immortal realm. Even if the great emperor of the netherworld has the power to defy the heavens, or the ability, he can't resist the heavenly punishment. The sword spirit agreed. He's right. At that time, the heavenly punishment's aura was so strong that the old master did not resist. That's why the heavenly punishment's power could only attack the great emperor alone, and not the entire netherworld immortal realm. It can be said that the great emperor used his last moments to save countless living beings in the immortal realm. Then can I merge with this Xianming Thunder Archive? I don't know. It depends on the master's fate, and whether or not he can master the peerless thunder technique. He could only look at the peerless treasures and sigh helplessly. Then he looked around. There were no more royal-grade Tao artifacts. There were more than 100 supreme-grade Tao artifacts, and they were of various shapes and sizes, floating in different formations. Although there were no more royal-grade Tao artifacts, any of the other magic treasures were treasures of the present age. Su Fang also found a few supreme-grade pill cauldrons. Now he had a place to refine pills. He had been looking for a peerless pill cauldron. With a few supreme-grade pill cauldrons, it would not be a problem to refine middle-grade, upper-grade, or even supreme-grade yin-yang immortal sky pills. The author's words, Tomorrow I'll be off. This year, I have to take a day off with everyone to say goodbye to the old and welcome the new. Chapter 1153. There were a total of 4 top-grade pill cauldrons. Each cauldron had a profound aura that the snake spirit immortal swallowing cauldron did not have. Using such a cauldron to refine pills, high-grade pills would not be a problem. Then, he looked at the rare treasures. Underworld Samsara Sword. The incomplete Yellow Springs Divine Tao. Heavenly Cauldron of Good Fortune. The Xianming Thunder Archive. Every single one of these treasures were rare treasures of their time. Countless cultivators had lost their lives for these treasures, but in the end they all fell into Su Fang's hand. Apart from these treasures, there were also demonic Tao cultivation techniques, the Yellow Spring Emperor's experience in cultivating the reincarnation sword and reincarnation arts, as well as more than 100 supreme-grade Tao artifacts. The quality of these supreme-grade Tao artifacts was at least as high as the immortal piercing blade. Some were even a step away from reaching the king grade. He was rich. Hundreds of huge spirit veins floated in the surroundings like mountains. All kinds of spirit stones, gems, and spiritual items were hard to find. Su Fang even sensed some spiritual treasures or gemstones that contained the power of the 5 elements. At a glance, some of the gemstones were of the earth element and possessed astonishing power. They seemed to be on the verge of turning into consciousness. He could use them to cultivate the Xianwang 6 Paths Pagoda, as well as his own cultivation method. There were too many treasures. This was a treasure trove. Now, I don't have to worry about resources at all. He calmed down. While fusing with the Yellow Springs reincarnation sword, he also planned to fuse with the Xianming Lightning Archive and the Good Fortune Big Dipper Cauldron. There were also 4 peak-grade medicinal cauldrons. After fusing the peak-grade medicinal cauldrons, the experts under Shao Chen could refine superior-grade Yinyang Immortal Sky pills. There were too many things to do. Master, we're back. In the blink of an eye, a period of time passed. Su Fang, who was in the middle of cultivation, suddenly heard the voices of the great monk Shang De and the ghost Dao's 5 freaks. He immediately flew out of the crucible transformation realm and merged with Huang Fu's cloud sea host body. The monk and the ghost Dao's 5 freaks had arrived, and they had brought 8 experts with them. Some of them were experts who had entered the space with the monk, while the others seemed to be related to the ghost Dao's 5 monsters. When the 8 of them saw Su Fang, they were all afraid. Of course, they didn't know who Su Fang was, nor did they know that he was the Ghostface Rakshasa who had stolen the great emperor's treasure. Anyway, only by following him would they have a chance to leave this place. Otherwise, the great monk Shang De and the 5 freaks of the ghost Dao would not be so polite to Su Fang. After the 8 of them came to an agreement, not only did they each receive a top-grade Dao artifact, they also received the Yin-Yang Immortal Sky Pellet. The 8 of them were either heavily injured or covered in injuries. Obviously, not only had they not obtained any benefits from the battle for the treasures this time, they'd gotten nothing instead. Presently, they were trapped in the outer realm as well. Once they received the benefits, Su Fang would naturally plant the sealing seeds in their bodies. At this moment, Grand Monk Shang De stepped forward. I've heard news of Yen Mo. It's said that he managed to kill his way out of the encirclement of the 4 great powers. However, no one knows where he is now. It's rumored that he brought some people with him and seems to have already escaped from this outer realm. Really? It was a bit of a pity that they came from Emperor Ning's mansion. Back then, Emperor Ning's mansion sent someone to look for him, but he still couldn't figure out their purpose. Originally, he already had the strength and resources to deal with Yen Mo, but this person slipped away first. Everybody, go into the magic treasure space and practice calmly. Don't worry about anything else. At the same time, practice the Grand Joint Divine Skill. If you want magic treasures or resources, just ask. After the order was issued, the group of people was sucked into the Xian Guang. Next, they continued to practice and wait as Huang Fu Yunhai. After less than 3 years of waiting, Immortal Changu sent them good news. The four great powers have already made contact with the experts they had arranged outside the Outerium long ago and established a space passage. Now the people of the four great powers are withdrawing bit by bit. They can leave now. Su Fang didn't want to take risks by relying on himself like last time when he cooperated with the second primordial spirit and risked his life to escape from the Outerium alone. About the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, Su Fang, as Huang Fu Yunhai, appeared in the void not far from the mausoleum of the great emperor. As expected, there were more than 100 experts guarding a space seal above. Disciples of the four great powers would step into the seal from time to time. Huang Fu Yunhai was a high-level member of the Star Palace. When he arrived at the formation, he had to verify his identity face to face before he was allowed to step into the space formation. It was the familiar feeling of weightlessness. Besides that, there were the auras of the four great powers. After a short while of weightlessness, there was a dazzling light in front of his eyes. A controlling power lifted him up from the state of weightlessness. His legs suddenly had weight and he was surrounded by the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Coincidentally, he was in an abyss in the Outerium. Around him were experts of the four great powers. Su Fang saw many familiar experts of the Star Palace. After chatting with some of them for a short while, he felt a calamity aura that was about to break through to the Xian immortal realm flowing from the depths of his body. He was about to break through. Using the identity of Huang Fu Yunhai, he left the abyss. After a long time, he flew out of the crater and finally left the wasteland that was full of shackles. When he was in midair, he looked at the bottomless crater on the ground. There were auras of hundreds of thousands of disciples of the four great powers in the surroundings. It seemed that all the disciples of the four great powers were gathered near the crater. Peel! Huang Fu Yunhai, the host body, trembled and turned into a Xian Guang. Su Fang flew out from his body. At this moment, Ghostface Rakshasa, who had obtained the treasure of the Yellow Spring Emperor, disappeared. He was an ordinary disciple from the constellation of 9 heavens. There was a mountain range in the distance. Now that the four great powers would not leave in a short time, after all, they still wanted to find the treasure of the Yellow Spring Emperor. Su Fang could cultivate near the crater. After an hour, he and his second primordial spirit arrived at the mountain range. In this mountain range there were auras of cultivators. Most of them were disciples of the four great powers, but there were also some powerful figures. After finding a mountain range that had no auras within a radius of 20 miles, Su Fang came to the mountainside and looked at Huang Fu Yunhai, second primordial spirit, return to my divine aperture world. You and I will merge. From the 9 Tao realms of the heavenly immortal realm to the Xian immortal realm, our primordial spirits will be strengthened together. With this host body guarding by the side, even if auras of tribulation auras appear, outsiders will not dare to act recklessly. Huang Fu Yunhai pointed at himself. Since we have obtained everything, we can also give up this host body. After a while, I will lack energy when I break through to the Xian immortal realm. I can devour this host body. It will be quite useful. The main body smiled. The second primordial spirit flew out of the host body's mind with the light of the mark and entered Su Fang's forehead. After the formation, Huang Fu Yunhai stood outside the barrier and released the aura of the constellation of 9 heavens to guard this area. Even if someone sensed the aura of tribulation, they would not dare to have any thoughts. Who would dare to touch a high-level member of the four great powers in the territory of the four great powers? Spirit gathering formation, defensive formation, sensing formation. They turned into a barrier that covered 1 mile of the mountainside. Some weak spiritual energy seeped in from the starry fog. Using the 9 heavenly stars' minor art and ethereal enlightenment, the heaven and earth sensed the power of the technique and began to absorb the essence of heaven and earth and borrow the power of the stars. However, only a part of the spiritual energy entered the formation. After all, this was a wasteland. It was very difficult for ordinary cultivators to absorb even the slightest bit of spiritual energy. However, Su Fang could absorb 100 times more spiritual energy than ordinary cultivators. It was already unbelievable. To Su Fang, who needed to break through and recover from his injuries, this was a drop in the bucket. Looking at the current situation, other than devouring pills, he was not in a hurry to break through to the Xian immortal realm. After all, he had obtained the Emperor's treasure and was surrounded by the 4 great powers. He did not have to worry about anything, especially since he was no longer the Ghostface Rakshasa. He was just an ordinary heavenly immortal disciple who came from the constellation of 9 heavens that no one knew about. Above the heavenly immortal realm is the Xian immortal realm. Breaking through requires a lot of spiritual energy. This little bit of spiritual energy is far from enough. Within the formation, as he cultivated and breathed, he continued to use the ethereal enlightenment and the 9 heavenly stars minor art to absorb the essence of heaven and earth, allowing more spiritual energy to enter the formation. Some of his hair was still white. The effects of using the life-shrinking technique last time had not recovered. In the Tao Palace of heaven and earth within his body, which was also the yin-yang Tao wheel, the underworld samsara sword was fusing his yang power and the power of the yin and yang world. There was no need for Su Fang to control it. The sword spirit was actively fusing with it. At the same time, it also began to fuse with the Xianming Thunder Archive. This was a treasure that Su Fang was very interested in. Moreover, it was a King Grey Tao artifact that was as sharp as the 10 Tao artifacts. It was above countless treasures in the celestial world and looked down on the heavens. I don't have a powerful lightning-type cultivation technique. Although the Xianwang 6 Paths Pagoda has lightning-type divine power, the lightning-type cultivation technique inside is only a few hand seals and is only at the level of a small world. When I came to the Great World, I also encountered some lightning-type cultivation techniques, but they were all ordinary. In order to activate the Xianming Thunder Archive, I still need the most powerful lightning-type cultivation technique. Fortunately, I have fused with the Xianwang 6 Paths Pagoda, and there is a lightning-type energy supporting me. To fuse with the Xianming Thunder Archive. At this moment, Su Fang's breathing was very tense. After chatting with Su Fang and letting him recover a little, the Samsara sword spirit carefully entered the storage ring left by the Emperor of Netherworld. When he came to the formation that sealed the Xianming Thunder Archive, the sword spirit reminded him, "Master, if your blood and qi get close to the wheel sword, there will be a slight repulsion. You must not fuse with it. Its momentum is too horrible. Once it explodes, even the storage ring will be broken." After concentrating, he looked at the Xianming Thunder Archive. This magic treasure was about a foot long and as wide as a palm. It was bluish-white and had some ancient immortal patterns. It looked like a bluish-white jade. It should not be underestimated. A drop of blood was condensed and slowly entered the formation. As it approached the Xianming Thunder Archive, Su Fang's eyes widened and his heart almost jumped out of his throat. The bloody light approached the quiet Xianming Thunder Archive bit by bit. As it got closer, the Xianming Thunder Archive was still very quiet. When the bloody light was 1 finger away, the Xianming Thunder Archive still did not move. Su Fang finally breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that such a magic treasure did not repel his breath. Only then did he feel relieved. He condensed a few more drops of blood and dripped them on the Xianming Thunder Archive. It felt that the Xianming Thunder Archive was like a sponge, absorbing the blood in an instant. After absorbing it, Su Fang slowly approached and found that the Xianming Thunder Archive still did not move. However, after more than 10 breaths, some immortal patterns on the surface seemed to become channels. Bursts of blood-red thunder light began to flow along the immortal patterns and gradually entangled and wrapped the Xianming Thunder Archive. At this moment, the Xianming Thunder Archive finally had a state of being awakened. Before Su Fang felt a sense of fusion, a cold voice came from the Xianming Thunder Archive. Samsara Sword Spirit, long time no see. Xianming, we haven't seen each other for a long time. Since the death of the old master, you have been in self-sealing. The sigh of the Samsara sword came from Su Fang's body. This is my new master. The Xianming Thunder Archive suddenly stood upright, as if there were eyes looking at Su Fang. Compared with the Emperor of the Netherworld, your cultivation is really insignificant. But I don't know why such a small person like you can get my approval. Strange. Is it because you are the successor of the Emperor of the Netherworld? Su Fang gathered courage from nowhere. Device Spirit, I am Su Fang. From now on, I hope to get your approval. I don't have the strength, but I will be as powerful as the Emperor in the future. Since ancient times, I have seen too many cultivators. Even the Yellow Spring Great Emperor was only as short as a shooting star. I also hope that there will be a master who can truly activate me. A magic treasure has to be as bright as a star. You can't activate me now. Let's talk about it again when you have the ability. Suddenly, the blood-red thunder light on the Xianming Thunder Archive, together with the immortal patterns, seemed to be frozen. Chapter 1154. What an arrogant magic treasure! After he finished speaking, the Xianming Thunder Scroll fell silent, leaving Su Fang standing there with his eyes wide open. It was strange. Since it was fused with blood, he couldn't activate it. How could there be such a magic treasure in the world? He couldn't figure it out. What could he do with the Xianming Thunder Archive? Every word it said was true. A disciple in the celestial realm could activate such a peerless Taoist instrument. Even the Emperor of Netherworld could barely activate it. Facing such a blow from the magic treasure, he was not affected at all. Instead, he was calm. At least he didn't need to seal the Xianming Thunder Archive, and could return to his body. He released the Xianguang and sucked the Xianming Thunder Archive into the Yin-Yang Tao Wheel. Heaven and Earth Tao Palace, you have the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace. Just as it flew out of the storage ring, Su Fang was about to absorb the spiritual qi of heaven and earth and prepare to break through when the Xianming Thunder Archive was surprised. The sword spirit of Samsara also said, "Of course, he is the inheritor of the old master. How can he be an ordinary person? I'm not as powerful as you, but I feel that there is a supreme power in master. Somehow, when I come into his body, I have to obey his orders. I mean the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace. It is almost impossible for the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace to appear in the body of an immortal. It is a kind of godhood that can help one become a god and ascend to the universe. Isn't it good for Master to have a godhood? We will assist Master well. In the future, Master will surpass the old master and surpass the immortals we have witnessed. He will break free from the shackles of the immortal realm and ascend to the universe where the gods are said to be. You and I will also be promoted to supreme divine artifacts, instead of just having a little divinity. No wonder I was awakened. In the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace, a cultivator with such a godhood is rare in the world. I have only seen a few people in the long years, and they are all the strongest in the immortal realm. Well, Su Fang, I also look forward to the day when you have the ability to activate me." The two treasures communicated in their bodies. Finally, the Xianming Thunder Archive transmitted its voice to Su Fang with an expectant tone and fell asleep in the Yin-Yang Tao Wheel. Su Fang was confused, but someone should know. Su Fang immediately released the Yang Immortal and escaped into the Blood Jade. "Law. I knew you would come. Do you want to know what the Xianming Thunder Archive is?" Law was indeed Law. He immediately guessed Su Fang. Without waiting for Su Fang to snap out of his daze, he continued, "Things like godhood, or the Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth, are very rare even in the greater worlds. Only 1 out of 100 million people may have one. Even the Yuanlu Great World and Immortal Ao Great World, which rarely produce a genius with a Tao palace of heaven and earth. Usually, only one or two will appear in an immortal domain. You are probably one of the few in this immortal domain. I never thought that cultivating the 9 yang 9 transformations and forming the yin-yang Tao wheel would make me a godhood. The latter still didn't understand. A godhood isn't a true body, nor is it a desolate physique, Tao physique, or divine physique. It's a kind of genius halo, the embodiment of a superior being. For example, some people are born with the aura of wealth. They will definitely become rich. Some people are born with a natural affinity for the sword, and will become a sword expert in the future. Most of the people in the Tao Palace came here by chance. This is a fortuitous encounter, because no one knows how a godhead was born. But all godheads have one thing in common, which is that they are shockingly talented. However, you became a godhead by cultivating the 9 yang 9 transformations. It only means that your 9 yang 9 transformations is a peerless technique that surpasses any technique in the world. I've never seen such a technique before. Law was also very surprised and confused in the blood jade. But at least he could tell that Su Fang had become a godhood because he cultivated the 9 yang 9 transformations. Law smiled. Godhood is very rare in the myriad worlds and the divine realms. That's because they don't rely on techniques, but on luck and opportunity. That's why a godhood is even rarer than a desolate physique, Tao physique, or even divine physique cultivator. Kid, you should hide the heaven and earth Tao palace well. Don't let anyone know about this secret. Thankfully, very few people in the great world know about godhood, unless they have a certain understanding of the divine realms. Of course, there are plenty of people like that. He didn't hear any more secrets about godhood, but he was even more certain that Law was knowledgeable. There was probably nothing in the great world that Law didn't know. He knew about most of the treasures from the ancient era. He even talked about the godhood experts and the legendary god domains. Su Fang sensed that the formation had gathered a lot of spiritual qi. He had long since reached the peak of the 9th heavenly immortal realm. It was time to break through to the profound immortal realm. Before he knew it, 5 years had passed. After forming the seal, his strength began to surge. Shi Wan's entire body began to circulate with a minor circulation first, followed by a major circulation. His body was full of genuine qi. He felt a pain that was about to be torn apart by the genuine qi. Whoosh! In less than half a day, he could have broken through to the profound immortal realm when he received the inheritance and power of the Emperor. It was even easier now. A gust of tribulation qi spurted out. Then, he was surrounded by tribulation fire. A force of nothingness permeated the world. Then, there were some stormy clouds in the starry mist. The aura of tribulation was surging in the clouds. Then, the clouds in all directions surged into the sky and swallowed the starry mist. 9th tribulation, come. With the host Huang Fu Yunhai standing guard outside, he was very safe. He flew out of the formation and reached a height of 300 feet. His body was full of burning starry flames. The other forces were hidden deep inside his body. Phew, the tribulation was also formed. The thick tribulation clouds were like a huge demon looking down. In an instant, a beam of tribulation light descended from the tribulation clouds like a destructive divine ability. It furiously attacked Su Fang. Whoosh! With a flick of his finger, a sword qi condensed in the air and rushed toward the tribulation light. Boom! He didn't expect that the seemingly terrifying tribulation light would collapse and shatter under the sword qi's impact. This was because Su Fang was strong. He had long stepped into the profound immortal realm, and the power of the tribulation was only around the profound immortal realm. There were only a few people in the great world who could pass the tribulation so easily. The second tribulation came rolling in. There were still 2 beams of tribulation light, but it was more powerful than before. But Su Fang still controlled the sword qi. When the two beams of tribulation light were in the air, the sword chi suddenly slashed from the middle. With a boom, the power of the two beams of tribulation light was cut in half from the middle. They shattered in the air. After shattering the second tribulation, Su Fang couldn't absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. The third tribulation was a series of thunder, descending from the shocking dark clouds of tribulation that were almost 2.5 miles long. The 3 bolts of tribulation lightning were like 3 lightning snakes. They fell from the sky, and even the desolate aura in the wasteland and the shackles of the divine power were crushed. Obviously, the power of the third tribulation had surpassed the power of the heaven immortal realm. It was so terrifying. No wonder the profound immortals were all core disciples of the major sections. In the end, such a powerful lightning tribulation was still slashed by Su Fang's sword chi. In less than 10 breaths of time, it was slashed by the sword chi like a headless fly, running about in midair and even exploding. Next, the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th tribulations were easily shattered by the sword chi. However, when it came to the 9th tribulation, more than half of the dark cloud's energy seemed to have been completely absorbed by the tribulation, and then it transformed into an expanse of energy. There was a total of 9 layers that fused together, and they whistled as they descended from the sky. Not to mention destructive force, even the shapeless, baleful aura and divine might wanted to crush everything. This time, Su Fang still executed sword chi. But the difference was that it was an expanse of starlight sword chi that had transformed into a sword formation. The sword formation was like an enormous spinning kite that buzzed as it rose against the heavens. It buzzed first, and then it was the sizzling sound of sword chi that swept through the surroundings. Bang! 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 The 9 heavenly tribulations bombarded the sword formation one after another. In the beginning, the sword formation was still very strong. However, as the heavenly tribulations were shattered one by one, the remaining 3 heavenly tribulations completely shattered the sword formation and continued to fall on Su Fang. The power of the last wave of tribulation was too terrifying. If it were an ordinary cultivator, they would definitely have to use powerful Dharma treasures and make various preparations to survive such a great tribulation. Su Fang stood up resolutely with his hands behind his back. Another sword formation appeared around him. This time, there was no need to form a seal. The sword formation shot into the sky, and the last 3 waves of tribulation struck together. After a series of explosions, the tribulation was completely shattered. Then, an auspicious aura seeped down from the tribulation. When he returned to the formation, this auspicious aura made his body feel weightless, as light as a feather. Then, he felt a sense of relaxation that he had never felt before. He hurriedly summoned more than a dozen powerful big goblin and some injured experts, and let them enter the depths of the formation to absorb this auspicious aura. They also took the opportunity to swallow all kinds of elixirs, using the divine might of heaven and earth to help refine the power of the elixirs. Under this auspicious aura, Su Fang began to welcome the shattering and impact. His entire body was bleeding, and impurities emerged from the depths of his body, emitting a foul smell. After a series of impacts, he was still in pain. As the auspicious aura slowly retreated, the advancement also seemed to calm down. Suddenly, his senses were different. Even if he did not use his great perfection stage ability, he could see a few miles away when he looked at the surrounding nature. His body still felt weightless, as if there was no weight at all. Sensing his body, it turned out that his meridians were more than 5 times deeper. Other places were also obviously different from when he was in the heavenly immortal realm. For example, his golden core origin had become bigger, and his mind's divine aperture had become more solid. The young immortal inside was constantly transforming, stripping, and fusing. His second primordial spirit was also fusing with the sorrow rune, absorbing the power of advancement. His second primordial spirit also took the opportunity to fuse with the sorrow rune on a deeper level. Su Fang hurriedly swallowed the elixirs. 10 high-grade elixirs were directly swallowed into his body. When he looked at his body again, there was a Tao mark everywhere. Mystic Immortal Realm. Mystic Immortal Realm. After adapting to his body, Su Fang felt that his body was now compatible with the galaxy and nature, reaching an unfathomable level. It was an untouchable realm, because at this moment, he was no longer a heavenly immortal, but a mystic immortal. After becoming a mystic immortal, the feeling is indeed mysterious. There is a natural feeling of following my heart to cultivate. It can be said that I am going with the flow. Now I am finally a qualified core disciple. I can also be considered an expert, and I am one step closer to the strength of an expert like the Elder. With my current strength, I still can't compete with the Elder, but any mystic immortal realm cultivator is not my opponent. Huang Fu Sea of Clouds, your mission is finally worthless at this moment. After devouring you, I can reach a very high level of the mystic immortal realm. Become my nutrient. With a wave of his hand, the Huang Fu Sea of Clouds in the array formation drilled into his palm. Chapter 1155. In this barren mountain range, there were already many experts who had reached the level of elders. They were all shocked by the star mark that a heavenly immortal cultivator had summoned. At this moment, in the depths of countless eyes, Su Fang, who was sitting cross-legged, suddenly shouted, "Kid, stop cultivating. If you continue like this, countless people will look for the reason why you summoned the heavenly omen. Why aren't you dismantling you piece by piece for research?" It was Luo. The ethereal true scripture is still the ethereal true scripture. I feel like there's something more to it. Su Fang had yet to react. It turned out that many of the immortal characters of the ethereal true scripture in his mind were different. The ethereal 10,000 laws Tao that the human emperor had cultivated back then was just a cultivation technique that he had comprehended by himself from the ethereal true scripture. However, after stepping into the profound immortal realm, he had unexpectedly gained some understanding of the ethereal true scripture. He did not expect to summon such a heavenly omen at the same time. He immediately formed a seal and sealed the immortal characters that he had comprehended. His true chi immediately disappeared around him. The distorted light above him disappeared. The star mark in the sky suddenly lost control and slowly began to dissipate. You're a disciple of the constellation of 9 heavens. The elders of the fire overflowing divine sun sect were the first to arrive. They looked at him up and down as if he was a monster. Moreover, their gazes were filled with powerful divine pressure. Of course, this is a disciple of the constellation of 9 heavens, Huang Fu Shaoing. This made Su Fang almost unable to breathe. The higher-ups of Huayan Shinrikyo were high and mighty. They could bully a profound immortal cultivator like him whenever they wanted. Fortunately, a large number of constellation of 9 heavens experts flew over. The leader was not only Aotian Chanhen, but also another elder. Su Fang was not surprised when he sensed Aotian Chanhen's aura. What made him curious was that the elder beside him had a shocking aura of the Huangfu clan. It was much stronger than Huangfu Yunhai's aura. They were not on the same level at all. This person was definitely a big shot from one of the 9 great dojos of Star Palace, Huangfu Elder. Brother Huangfu, Brother Aotian. When the experts from Huayan Shinrikyo saw so many powerful people from Star Palace, they immediately hid all kinds of divine power within their bodies. Is Star Palace going to produce a genius? Suddenly, 2 more groups of people flew over. On one side were the experts of the Clear Sky Thousand Scrolls Gate, and on the other side were the Brahma Meditation sect. There were dozens of people from both sides, and they were all elders. At this moment, the cultivators who appeared in front of the Su Fang were the elders of the 4 great powers and the true upper echelons. There were no special disciples, and even special disciples were not qualified to appear here. One of the important figures in Huayan Shinrikyo had the same status as Aotian Chanhen and Elder Huangfu. He nodded and said, "Both of you, this disciple of yours has just advanced to the mystic immortal realm. I don't know what kind of cultivation technique he is cultivating, but it isn't your sex xiaoxiang art." Let me see. A white-haired old man from the clear sky Thousand Scrolls Gate was wearing a plain robe with many Tao patterns. As he spoke, everyone stared at him and said, "This is a legend that everyone knows. It is the ethereal enlightenment." I remember that in the immortal Ao Great World, there was also a heavenly omen that appeared once. It was a person who cultivated the ethereal enlightenment and inherited the power of the legendary ethereal spiritual master. Powerful. The clear sky Thousand Scrolls Gate indeed had countless cultivation technique. Every disciple was good at using divine powers. Hence, they were very familiar with the cultivation techniques of the great world. This white-haired old man was really extraordinary. Ethereal enlightenment. All of a sudden, the surrounding experts looked at Su Fang with curious and astonished gazes. When he was about to stand up, he did not expect that the hundreds of experts, no, the experts further behind, would release their primordial spirits to see through his body. It was obvious that they wanted to find something from him and then expose Su Fang's secrets. These people, a divine power that could not be controlled or defended against, and even condensed into vital energy, crazily surged into his body from all directions. It was as if he was fighting against the consciousness and divine power of countless experts alone. Ao Tianzhonghen's eyes suddenly turned sharp and said, "Young man, why are you not activating the 3 Xian sword talismans that I gave you? Thank you for your guidance." Ao Tianzhonghen. Su Fang almost fell into a state of helplessness. Before long, the defense of his flesh membrane and vital energy would be seen through by countless eyes. When he heard Ao Tianzhonghen's voice, he instantly had a plan to deal with it. Back then, Ao Tianzhonghen gave him 3 Xian sword talismans. Now that he had absorbed almost half of the power, Su Fang was reluctant to part with the talismans. He had completely absorbed the power of the talismans. On one hand, he felt that the talismans from Ao Tianzhonghen could help him cultivate in the Star Palace. After all, he had a token from a dojo elder. Who would dare to touch him? On the other hand, he felt that the talismans from Ao Tianzhonghen would be useful one day if he kept them. He did not expect that day to come so soon. 3 Xian sword talismans flew out from his body. On Su Fang's flesh membrane and skin, there was an explosion of shocking sword qi. At the same time, Ao Tianzhonghen, who was not far away, had a sharp and deep look in his eyes. It was as if he was secretly releasing a supernatural power to help Su Fang secretly. Bang! A terrifying aura suddenly turned into a ring of gang qi outside of Su Fang's body. It pounced out ferociously with an aura that was like a sandstorm. This caused everyone's divine power and sensing consciousness to be forced out of Su Fang's body. They were either overturned or crushed directly. Ao Tianzhonghen is so strong. His Xian sword talisman does not have such power. This is invisible. Did he activate the Xian sword talisman personally? This time, I owe him another favor. He finally felt relaxed, no longer being stared at covetously by everyone. During this process, more experts from the 4 forces and other cultivators came to a mile away from the periphery. They first looked at the star mark that was about to disappear in the sky, then looked at Su Fang, who was standing among a large number of giants. They were all in disbelief. Huangfu Xiaoying. Among the experts from Star Palace, there was a lady who was treated with respect by everyone. She was Huangfu Fei. Her face was filled with surprise. "It's you. You are just a heavenly celestial, no, a Xian celestial. You can create such a heavenly omen. In the big world, there hasn't been a heavenly omen for many years. This person's cultivation speed is too shocking. First, he stepped into the heavenly celestial realm in a few decades. Now, he has cultivated to the Xian celestial realm in such a short time. I remember that he has only joined Star Palace for less than 300 years. In the past I thought that you were quite capable. Now I see that you are becoming more and more unfathomable. Luckily you are just a Xian celestial. It's time for you to teach me. Huang Fu Fei suddenly smiled. Some of the men who were secretly attracted by her beauty were mesmerized. Everyone. Huang Fu Elder and Ao Tian Changhen took a step in the air and stood beside Su Fang. Then, Elder Huang Fu cupped his fists at the surrounding cultivators. This is a disciple of our sect. We do not wish to be disturbed by anyone. Please leave. Now, the main thing is to look for the treasure of the Emperor of Yellow Spring. As for the heavenly omen brought by this disciple, it is a private matter of our sect. Please allow us to make a move. Let him go first. Return to the campsite. Leave the rest to me. Ao Tian Changhen continued to look in all directions. Swoosh. Elder Huang Fu Elder waved his hand and revealed an invisible control. He lifted Su Fang. In front of everyone, he actually had the ability to leap through the air and disappeared in a flash. This was the speed and ability that an ordinary elder should have. 2 breaths later, it was still the abyss of the crater. However, at the border, there were many valleys around a strange peak. In the middle, there was a huge valley. The surrounding valleys had all sorts of barriers and seals that released auras. With one look, one could tell that this was the campsite of the constellation of 9 heavens. The 3rd breath. In the centermost barrier, 2 phantoms appeared in the air. First, it was Elder Huangfu. Then, it was Su Fang, who was in a weightless state. As soon as the 2 of them arrived, several elders strode over from the other side of the barrier. There were about a dozen of them. Su Fang had never seen most of them before. However, he did not expect Heavenly Master Luan of the Treasure Mystic Realm to be among them. Xiaoying. As the person in charge of Su Fang's cultivation, Heavenly Master Luan immediately went forward and expressed his concern. Everyone, sit. The elders sat around Su Fang. Everyone was obviously anxious. They wanted to know what had happened to Su Fang. One of the elders seemed to be an elder of another sect. His aura revealed the origin of the Bodhi spiritual realm. Su Fang remembered that the Bodhi spiritual realm elder's name was Yu Lingtian. It had to be him. Yu Lingtian said, "Before the first wave is over, another wave is coming. The great Emperor's treasure is now in the hands of a mysterious cultivator called Ghost Face Rakshasa. Rumor has it that this person is related to the Huayan Shinrikyo. However, some say that the mask came from the celestial demon mountain. Anyway, that person would not wear a mask and wander around. This time, it will be difficult for us to get the great Emperor's treasure. Then, there is the matter of Huang Fu Xiaoying." Whoosh! Everyone looked at Su Fang again. Heavenly Master Luan waved his hand at Su Fang and asked, "Tell us, why did you attract the heavenly omen?" Elder Huang Fu also said, "What Elder Luan means is that it is not the sect that wants to know your secret. Every cultivator has their own secret. However, most people keep their secrets to themselves. However, your secret is now known by everyone in the world. Since ancient times, cultivators who can attract the heavenly omen either have unique treasures or peerless technique. Any of these reasons can prevent any cultivator from spying on you. I am your disciple." He could not hide it. He could not hide it at all. If it was at the moment when Tian Zhaosheng was still alive, it might have been possible. However, now that he was publicly acknowledged by the elders of the Gate of Myriad Scrolls, he could not lie any more. Especially now that he had attracted everyone's attention because of the heavenly omen. If he did not rely on the constellation of 9 heavens, he would be in danger. Su Fang immediately bowed. "I only obtained a fragment of a manual in the small world. It was kept by an immortal called Ren Huang. I followed the cultivation experience in the manual and cultivated from the small world to the large world. However, I did not make any progress. However, I found one advantage. When I was cultivating this manual, it could be used with the 9 heavenly stars minor art. It allowed my cultivation speed to increase beyond imagination. After entering the sect, I kept on breaking through at an astonishing speed. An elder praised in front of everyone, so, he is an ascender. Elder Luan is such a genius. He should not have entered your treasured artifact secret realm. He should have entered the grand ancient dojo or even a special dojo to cultivate. The manual is the legendary ethereal true enlightenment? Yu Ling Tian asked again. Yes, the manual is indeed the ethereal true enlightenment. Later on, when I came to the large world, I specially collected information. Now, the records of the large world regarding the ethereal true enlightenment are similar to what I obtained. At that time, I wanted to give up on cultivating it, but I could not bear to do so. Who would have thought that because of the mystic immortal realm, I would suddenly enter a state of emptiness? It was as if I had entered a world of darkness through the ethereal true enlightenment. I remember, many years ago, there was a heavenly omen in the immortal Ao great world. According to the unofficial records, it was indeed an immortal called Ren Huang who caused the heavenly omen. However, later on, he was hunted down by many immortals. Later on, no one knows what happened to him. I have also heard of this. After all, the ethereal true enlightenment is rumored to be a supreme manual. No one knows what it is exactly. But who would have thought? Everyone has their own opportunities and luck. Huang Fu and Xiaoying can rely on their own cultivation to comprehend the ethereal true enlightenment that everyone knows. They are not simple. All of a sudden, all the elders looked at Su Fong in a new light. Chapter 1156. The elders were knowledgeable, and they had different understandings of the ethereal enlightenment. Everyone knew about the ethereal enlightenment, but how many cultivators could truly cultivate it and persevere? Go back first. Don't leave the camp for now. The sect still needs a few years to find the great emperor's treasure. The Huangfu elder finally allowed Su Fong to leave first. Everyone. Not long after Su Fong left, the higher-ups were still discussing when Ao Tian Changhen appeared out of thin air. The major factions and all the other factions in the wasteland are now looking at the heavenly omen that Huang Fu Xiaoying attracted. It seems like our sect will be in trouble in the future. With such a heavenly omen, it's not difficult for many people to guess that Xiaoying must have found the secret of the ethereal enlightenment. Huayan Shinrikyo, Clear Skies Myriad Scroll Gate, Brahma Meditation Gate. I guess all of them are envious of our sect for having such a disciple. I think we should focus on finding the great emperor's treasure. Although it was taken by the masked cultivator, there are still many unsolved mysteries in the great emperor's mausoleum. Moreover, we also found some treasures in there. The most important thing is still the great emperor's treasure. The higher-ups continued to discuss the important matters. They left the high-level space. However, Su Fong heard every word that the higher-ups said clearly, including Ao Tian Changhen's return. He found a nearby barrier where the disciples were resting. As soon as he entered, he attracted the attention of many disciples. Even the special disciples looked at him differently, such as Chou Yun and Lian Chongxian. He set up a barrier alone and quieted down. The disciples outside did not care about him. He swallowed pills and observed the integration of the reincarnation sword in his body. His progress was not bad. As for the 4 supreme-grade pill cauldrons and the heavenly creation cauldron, he was slowly integrating them. With so many powerful treasures, it would be difficult to master them in a short time. It would take many years before he could use them. But you're here. Suddenly, Huang Fu Fei's primordial spirit came from outside. Senior sister, please come in. When Su Fong was about to get married, Huang Fu Fei she came over and congealed a chair for her. She sat almost face to face with Su Fong. At this moment, Huang Fu Fei's expression changed slightly. It was unknown what she was thinking, but she suddenly smiled and praised. Now you are famous. The upper echelons of the sect are personally protecting you and receiving you. The cultivators who come to the Huangze astral plane all know that there is a disciple called Huangfu Shaoying in the constellation of 9 heavens who has cultivated the ethereal true enlightenment and attracted heavenly omens. Disciple unintentionally persisted in cultivating the ethereal true comprehension, but I never thought that it would bring about such a shocking encounter. At this moment, it was no longer like before when Su Fang had to stand respectfully in front of Huang Fu Fei. Of course, Huang Fu Fei also noticed this subtle change, but she didn't point it out. After all, the current Su Fang was no longer the submissive ordinary cultivator from several decades ago who had his legs broken by her. Huang Fu Fei revealed an intelligent expression. You have indeed cultivated the ethereal true comprehension. Yes, I have. Back then, disciple accidentally came to this world and encountered the ethereal true enlightenment, so I used it to cultivate. This cultivation technique is said to have been created by a peerless expert called the ethereal Taoist. Once you cultivate it to the peak, you can travel through the stars and create matter from the void. Congratulations, you've worked hard recently. Take these medicinal pills. If you don't have enough, I'll give you more resources to cultivate. After all, you are now a nominated special disciple and have such a fortuitous encounter. If you want to become stronger, you need resources. Huang Fu Fei took out a storage ring and put it down. Then, she walked away with light steps and her graceful figure flashed. Now that you know I'm extraordinary, you're trying to rope me in. You think I'm so easy to trick. From the moment we met, I knew what kind of person you were. I'll definitely repay you for the humiliation of destroying my legs. It's just that the time hasn't come yet. After sending off Huang Fu Fei, he sealed the formation and began to cultivate. However, he hadn't expected that Wang Yuzhen would come looking for him after a while. Of course, he had to meet her. At this moment, not far from the constellation of 9 heavens camp, within a forest, a man and a woman were holding hands. The woman was nestled in the man's embrace. The man said, "Hasn't Huang Fu Shaoying always been under your control? Fei this person is just a heavenly immortal. He's actually able to comprehend the ethereal true enlightenment. This person is just a bit lucky. I say, fools have fool's luck. Others don't cultivate, but he persevered and succeeded. Quite a few experts know about the legends of the ethereal true enlightenment. After cultivating it, one can create matter from the void. That way, one can gain a foothold anywhere. Furthermore, there's a peerless treasure called the myriad manifestations heavenly law. It's a treasure created by the ethereal Taoist. It's said that once a cultivator uses this treasure, they can cultivate in any void without ever getting lost. They can even create a world. Brother Yen wants the ethereal true enlightenment. Under the mottled light, it turned out to be Huang Fu Fei and Yen Senshin. Yen Senshin hugged Huang Fu Fei, the tip of his nose almost sticking to her skin. Who wouldn't want more treasures? I've obtained the inheritance of the twin swords of annihilation. Give me a few more years, and I'm only lacking time. As long as I have time, I'll definitely surpass the elders and grand elders in the future. No, I'll even surpass the leader. With the ethereal true enlightenment, I'm like a tiger that has grown wings. Not only is it a peerless cultivation technique, I can also obtain that peerless treasure, the myriad manifestations heavenly law. Actually, I also want the ethereal true enlightenment on him. However, the higher-ups are protecting him now. He's no longer a yes-man in front of me. It'll take some time to capture him. I'll wait. Furthermore, my focus is on the annihilation Tao. The two gradually disappeared under the light. Outside the desolate lake star world, in the vast void, a space-shattering force suddenly appeared. Following that, a figure suddenly broke through the void and stepped into the depths of the desolate land. After a few breaths of time, in a star fog mountain range not far from the abyss of the sinkhole, Yen-Mo, an expert from the tranquil emperor's mansion, was waiting with several other experts. Suddenly, the figure who had just broken through the void tore through the star fog in front of them and arrived with a flicker. Lord Lin, Yen-Mo hurriedly greeted him. This lord has an astonishing kingly aura. One can clearly feel the aura of an emperor. He arrived domineeringly and asked directly, "It's not this person." At the same time, a figure condensed. It was unexpectedly Su Fang. But judging from his attire, he seemed to be Su Fang, who had been cultivating in a small world. "Yes, it's this person. How did you know so clearly, Lord?" Yen-Mo said in surprise. In the past, quite a few people flew up from the lower realms. After the human emperor died, experts from everywhere were secretly looking for his whereabouts. Not long ago, news came from the lower realms that the planet where the human emperor had once cultivated had been discovered. So they sent people down. Who would have thought that this person would obtain it? This brat's name is Su Fang, isn't it? No, it's not Su Fang. He's Huangfu Shaoying, a disciple of the constellation of 9 heavens. I've already asked around and found out that this person is indeed an ascender who has ascended to the upper realms less than 300 years ago. You send a message to the Tranquil Emperor. The Tranquil Emperor asked me to take charge of this matter. We'd better capture this person alive. If we can't, we have to bring back his corpse even if we have to kill him. The true ethereal solution is something the Tranquil Emperor must obtain. If this matter can be accomplished, it'll be of great benefit to both our futures. But this person has already returned to the constellation of 9 heavens camp. In my eyes, the constellation of 9 heavens is indeed a great power and not easy to deal with. Lord Lin suddenly says with a disdainful smile. But in the eyes of the Tranquil Emperor, the constellation of 9 heavens is only a Xiozhen power without any background. Therefore, it can't be mentioned in the same breath as the Tranquil Emperor's mansion. Now that the 4 great powers have united, the Star Palace thinks that nobody will dare to touch him. But I, Linihan, must kill my way in and take this brat away. Let's kill our way in directly. Hearing this, Yen-Mo is covered in cold sweat. Time is tight. Immortal Emperor Tian-Ong sent his son, Long Xiaojun, to seize the treasures of the Winding Spring Great Emperor in the desolate swamp astral world. Perhaps the matter of Tianzhao has also been passed on to Immortal Emperor Tian-Ong by him. At that time, Immortal Emperor Tian-Ong was also one of the people who chased after the human emperor to seize the secret of the true ethereal solution. Therefore, if we don't take action first, the Tiandao immortal world will take action against the Star Palace first. I've seen Long Xiaojun in the mausoleum of the great emperor. But even so, it's still difficult for us to take that person away from the constellation of 9 heavens. Moreover, we'll offend a great power. So what if we offend them? The Star Palace can still make trouble for the Tranquil Emperor's mansion. Moreover, we'll just do it in our own name. Don't be afraid. Lin Yihan shouts loudly. Yen-Mo is so scared that he shivers. He immediately activates his primordial spirit. More than 30 experts gather from the forest at once. Almost every one of them has the strength of an elder. In the constellation of 9 heavens camp, inside the formation, a large number of disciples are staring at the formation in the depths and discussing animatedly. Even the special disciples are paying attention to Su Fang's every move. This is bad. Since I returned here, a large number of auras and consciousnesses have seeped in. Some of them are from the 4 forces, but most of them are from other auras. Su Fang, who has the power of the Great Perfection Realm and the life-shortening skill of Tianji, is constantly stepping into new heights of the Xian immortal realm while he is cultivating. At the same time, he is also paying attention to every movement within dozens of miles. He can roughly capture the aura of the wasteland within at least 20 miles. Swish, most of them are auras and most of them are eyes. Suddenly, he heard a sharp cutting sound coming from not far away. Su Fang is suddenly shocked. After sensing it, he used the life-shortening skill of Tianji again. Suddenly, more than a dozen masked men in black appear in his mind. They are assassinating a few disciples who are guarding the formation. They are coming toward his formation. He estimates that they will be here in a few breaths. Buzz! The life-shortening skill of Tianji suddenly sensed a familiar aura from the dozens of experts. Su Fangda is shocked. It is the aura of the origin of the heavenly law immortal realm. Could it be experts like Long Xiaojun? After a while, he immediately sent a message to Immortal Changgu. Immediately tell the higher-ups that you sensed a threatening aura coming toward me. Okay, Master, protect yourself. I can't just sit there and wait for my death. I can't let myself fight with those top experts. Isn't there Immortal Changgu? Puff puff. After the third breath, there is the sound of blood spurting from 100 meters away. Blood poison. Su Fang frowned and immediately injected a thick layer of blood poison into the surrounding formation. Why are there more men in black coming from the other side? After the blood poison is deployed, the power of the Great Perfection Realm appears again. More than 30 experts appeared. After sensing carefully, Su Fang actually sensed a familiar aura from one of the experts. Oh right, I have seen this person before. His aura is also familiar. Otherwise, I wouldn't know who he is. Oh right, it is the expert from Emperor Ning's residence, Yenmo. The experts from Emperor Ning's residence have also openly attacked the Star Palace's campsite. Could it be that they are here for the ethereal enlightenment that I have? Emperor Ning's residence. Heavenly Law Immortal Realm. Boom. An enormous force actually shattered the formation that Su Fang had set up with a bang. Chi-Chi, in the end, a group of black-clothed experts were attacking like wolves and tigers. As the fragments of the formation flew over, they encountered the shocking blood poison. The corrosion of the blood poison caused the experts to retreat continuously. What kind of madman dares to attack my sex campsite and kill? Su Fang was surrounded like a dumpling. Fortunately, Outyen Zhonghen let out a long roar and broke through the air. More Star Palace experts roared and charged over from all directions. Chapter 1157. My blood poison is being absorbed by the 3 giant ogre demons. The more powerful they are, the more they want to take me down. As the formation was destroyed, the blood poison released in the formation was like cotton candy, enveloping Su Fang in the middle. The men in black from both sides were attacking. Obviously, they did not expect such a force to be waiting for them. Hearing Ao Tianzhan Hen's voice, Su Fang looked back. He brought Hen Buhui and Jun Bujian with him from the space formation. When the blood poison was dispersed by the men in black, Ao Tianzhan Hen and his 2 disciples were also at the side. When they saw the men in black, they activated the extreme nebula art. A large amount of nebula swept out, preventing most of the men in black from attacking Su Fang. Elder. But the 3 experts did not surround him. Su Fang still had to face the men in black. He shouted at Ao Tianzhan Hen on the other side. Protect yourself. Kid, these men are very powerful. They are almost stronger than most of the special disciples. Since they can openly attack the campsite, it shows that they will not leave easily. The other elders are also coming. Just wait for a while. With the power of an elder of a Taoist right temple, he grabbed hold of a burning nebula waterfall. Then, he waved his hands, sending the incoming black-robed men and magical items flying away. He could single-handedly fight 5 or 6 black-robed men at the same time. His 2 disciples, Hen Buhui and Jun Bujian, activated their treasures. With the extreme nebula art as the source of their supernatural powers, the star's sword aura could also shake off the men in black. However, there were about 60 black-clothed men on both sides. The 3 of them could fend off more than 10 black-clothed men. The surrounding ordinary disciples of Star Palace could fend off a portion of the black-clothed men. The remaining 20 black-clothed men bypassed Ao Tian and Zhang Hen and pounced on Su Fang directly. It felt like Su Fang was a rabbit that realized that it was spotted by a falcon. It was waiting for the best time to kill it. "I will let you be powerful." Humph! Suddenly, he spat out circles of blood poison. The blood poison could now transform into different attacking forms, such as swords, tides, and poisonous clouds. The blood poison was still effective. Who knew? There was a peerless expert among the black-clothed men. The aura he exuded shattered the blood poison. His 5 fingers were like a fierce tiger, fiercely grabbing at Su Fang. Emperor's Qi. He didn't think that there would be such a peerless expert who could completely override the blood poison. With a sweep of his great perfection ability, he saw a black-clothed man rushing towards him from several dozen feet away. There was an invisible emperor defense around him. This was an expert who cultivated the Tao of emperors. Step back. With such a powerful enemy, Su Fang was like a cheetah. His nerves were stretched taut. If there was really no other way, he could only use his primordial spirit to fight against this person. Once he performed it, he reckoned the experts from Star Palace around him would know how strong he was. Fortunately, a familiar old man's voice came from one side of Su Fang in a single step. Su Fang glanced at the illusory figure, and his heart settled. This person was an elder of the Bodhi spirit world, Yu Lingtian. They came at the right time. He wasn't an ordinary elder, but a peerless elder who was overseeing a region. Following that, Yu Lingtian rushed over. The oppressive aura from the black-clothed man was astonishingly affected. Su Fang hurriedly retreated, and Yu Lingtian met the 5 fingers with his palm. Nebula palm technique. Jia palm technique. 5 fingers. Like 2 different shaped lightning bolts, in the blink of an eye, they collided and destroyed. Su Fang only felt that Yu Lingtian was protecting him in front, and a wave of aura was dispelling the shocking aura in front of him. Then, the black-clothed man in front of him continued to rush over, closing in on him. Yu Lingtian looked at the black-clothed man. "You have amazing strength. With your strength, you definitely aren't a nobody." The other party's cold eyebrows were like swords. "I heard that the constellation of 9 heavens has 9 great elders, and you are one of them. Yu Lingtian, you are still my junior." Haha, sometimes things are so mysterious. Everyone has their own master. You better hand over this brat, and I won't make things difficult for you and the entire Star Palace. Yu Lingtian pushed Su Fang back with his palm, and then faced the black-robed man alone. "I don't care where you come from. You've killed your way into my sect without any hesitation. That's a provocation. You might be strong, but it won't be easy for you to take away a disciple from my sect." Another wave of aura. It seemed. In front of countless experts, in the eyes of the surrounding experts, Su Fang was just a rabbit, weak and powerless. But he could understand the surrounding movements better than anyone else. Just as he received Yu Lingtian's protection, he suddenly felt a familiar aura coming from the right side. He turned around and released his absolute circle ability. He saw a black-clothed man releasing his aura amidst the shattering and clashing aura. He estimated that he would reach him in less than 2 breaths. From this person's figure and aura, a familiar figure suddenly appeared in his mind. It was the genius from Tian Dao Immortal World, Long Xiaojun. So it was this person. After a breath, the other party was less than 10 zhang away. He seemed to be able to see Su Fang. His right arm shook in the air, and a huge golden claw appeared, profound yellow tyrant dragon claw. This claw was overbearing and fast as lightning. It was like a giant monster that suddenly attacked from the front, crushing everything. Fortunately, Su Fang already knew the other party's movements. When he released the poison gas, he quickly dodged. But with just his strength, he was not Long Xiaojuan's opponent. The claw shattered everything around him, and the impact of the aura sent Su Fang flying without any effort. A profound immortal, such fast reaction. Long Xiaojun indeed had heavenly hearing, or a certain level of amazing vision. He saw Su Fang being sent flying by the aura and immediately chased after him. Since Long Xiaojun came for me, then Huang Lingyao, 7-star child, and Xing Chongxing will soon know that I am a disciple of the constellation of 9 heavens. I didn't think that us venerables of the past, the immortals of the lower realm, would meet again in the great world. He quickly ran for his life. Moreover, he seemed to have sensed something, and his uneasy expression suddenly disappeared. It turned out that another powerful elder was coming from not far away. It was the Huangfu elder. When this Huangfu elder came, he waved his hand behind him, and a woman flashed to Su Fang's side. It was Huangfu Fei. "Protect this child," the Huangfu elder shouted, and a tumbling nebula struck Long Xiaojun. Long Xiaojun didn't expect the elder to attack so strangely, and could only watch as Su Fang was protected by Huangfu Fei on the other side. After the Huangfu elder appeared, he stood in the void between the two. He glanced at Long Xiaojun. "You are a young expert, and your aura is naturally noble. You must have a great background. Why do you have to be enemies with Star Palace? It's not good to kill or hurt you." What a joke. There are many people in this world who want to kill me. Although you are an elder, it won't be easy for you to kill me. Since you know that I came for this child, and that I have a great background, I advise you to turn a blind eye. Hand this child over to me, and I will remember your kindness. That's impossible. As an elder, how can I hand over my disciple for nothing? Humph. Papa. In a breath's time, an elder and a young genius fought against each other in the broken formation. Looking at the scene, and seeing a large number of Star Palace experts surrounding them, Su Fang immediately bowed to Huangfu Fei. "Thank you for coming to my rescue in time. Because of the ethereal enlightenment, there are many people watching you in the dark. You will be in trouble in the future." Huangfu Fei stood in front of Su Fang, protecting him. As a special disciple, she also released her extraordinary aura. Luckily, many higher-ups rushed over. There were thousands of Star Palace disciples outside, and a large number of higher-ups inside. The men in black had lost their advantage. Looking at it, it wouldn't be easy to capture Su Fang. Hong! Suddenly, there was an earth-shattering explosion from the other side. The elder from Bodhi's spiritual world, Yuling Tian, was blown away, and the space around him was shattered. The space in the big world was shattering. What a terrifying power! Yuling Tian. Some higher-ups quickly flew over. At that moment, many Star Palace disciples saw the scene and their hearts turned cold. In their hearts, the elder who was invincible had ended up severely injured. "Those who stop me die." In the explosion, an expert in golden armor and helmet flew out. It was the person who had chased after Su Fang but was blocked by Yuling Tian. The person was in golden armor and no longer had a mask on his face. It could be seen that he was a middle-aged man with a square face. His armor was a supreme-grade Dao weapon, not a middle-grade Dao weapon. Not only was the golden armor sturdy, but its defensive power was also shocking. The aura of Yuling Tian, who was severely injured, couldn't affect the golden armor. The golden armor was mighty, and there were golden immortal marks intertwined with the Emperor's aura. With one look, one could tell that the person had a strong background, and wasn't an expert from an ordinary force. In addition, he had the ability to severely injure Yuling Tian. The person was too scary. As he walked over, the surrounding Star Palace experts were shocked. Emperor Ning Mansion. Many people probably didn't know who he was. But Su Fang could sense his identity from his aura. He's too strong. He's stronger than the elder, and probably at the same level as the great elder. Even Yuling Tian wasn't his match. Then, Elder Huangfu, and even Ao Tian and Zhang Hen wouldn't be his match. Emperor's aura, this person has cultivated the Emperor's path to such a level. Even his eyes were wide open. Huang Fu Fei suddenly released his aura, bringing Su Fong to the back. Many Star Palace disciples seemed to have received orders from the higher-ups, and flew to Su Fong's side. They also formed seals in the air, and their seals were the same. Obviously, even the higher-ups knew that the expert in golden armor couldn't be defeated easily. They worked together to create a formation. "Master, I know who he is." Suddenly, the voice of the Ghost Dao's 5 freaks came from the Underworld Emperor bottle. "Really?" He immediately activated his supernatural power, allowing everyone to see the man in golden armor in the distance. One of the 5 freaks of Ghost Dao introduced. "During these years in the Xianao macro world, the 5 of us have secretly worked for many forces. We were paid to do things and avoided disasters. Once, a mysterious force paid a lot of money to kill a superior. When we arrived at that force, we knew that it was a peerless superior under the control of Emperor Ning's mansion. That man was called Lin Yihan, a peerless master with the potential to become an emperor. He was a right-hand man of Emperor Ning's mansion. There was also a man in black nearby, called Yen Mo, who was more familiar with us. We could sense his spirit. In the past, we secretly killed many people for Emperor Ning's mansion. Lin Yihan. Those who cultivated the Emperor's path were expert." The monk Shangda shook his head too. The Star Palace is in deep trouble this time. The 9 Heaven Star Palace is just a cultivation sect that established its influence in the extraterritorial spacetime. However, the mansion of Emperor Ning is a macro world, a peerless influence that controls a part of the world. There is no comparison between the two. I heard that the heavenly omen event of the ethereal enlightenment exploded in the Xian Ao macro world. Chapter 1158. Big Monk, who's stronger, you or Lin Yihan? What a terrifying opponent. At this moment, Su Fong subconsciously strokes his chin and secretly communicates with the expert in the bottle of yellow Spring the Great. Huang Fu Fei is protecting him on one side. Hearing this, the big monk hurriedly looks aside. "Don't drag me into this. I'm no match for this kind of person. I only drink wine and eat meat." The 5 freaks of the Ghost Dao also say, "Master, the big monk is strong, but he can't defeat Lin Yihan. His strength is at most similar to Yen Mo's. If the 5 of us join hands and use the Grand Joint Divine technique, we can fight him for a while. But we're not sure if we can take him down in the end." Su Fong knows how powerful the Grand Joint Divine technique is. It can increase the power of the 5 freaks of the Ghost Dao by several times. After all, even the big monk is no match for them. At this moment, among the several hundred disciples of the Star Palace, half of them are special disciples, some are higher-ups and some are core disciples. They are condensing into a sword formation and striking out thousands of sword lights to block the golden-armored Lin Yihan. Lin Yihan's strength is too terrifying. Facing a formation of 1,000 people alone, he is unexpectedly unfazed. Su Fong felt a sense of familiarity from his face. It was the same as that of the mortals of the lower realms, those fearless monarchs who had conquered the world and fought for their entire lives. Obviously, this Lin Yihan is not a simple person who cultivates the way of the emperor. From his aura, it can be seen that he has been through hundreds of battles. When he punches out, the surging waves are like a terrifying army of thousands of men and horses. They flatten the oncoming sword formation with a clattering sound. He seems to want to break the Star Palace into pieces. Too powerful. He's the first powerful expert I've seen since I came to the Great World. He can ignore a great power without any scruples. Su Fong's body and mind are both astonished. At this moment, Luo Zai says slowly in his body, "A great world is nothing. There are too many experts like him in the immortal realm. Moreover, immortal realms are different. Some immortal realms are even more powerful. This practitioner called Lin Yihan is not a true expert in a great world. This doesn't count." Luo Zai says casually. "Lin Yihan is still not an immortal emperor. Only after becoming an immortal emperor can one be considered a realm master and emperor of an immortal realm. Emperor? For eclipse? What? Sien? Looking at the Hydra? Hornaven's ring disease. Do you know silly mountain school? Hard polyps? Block Huan Gun Nan Chong Chong Chong? Hydra? The cliffs and cliffs of karma are rustling? Xing Xing Tu Musia? Tuing? Chu 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 Chien Street? Major? What? G? Competing with Huan Huan? Noon? Send a message? Soul? Warm Slow House? Shinlan Shu? The assassin of Fu Lao Shan. What? Idiot? Sang Huang Mo and Shi? Tan Lan Min? Screen? Give up? Jianlan, Brother Zhong, and Idiot Ma? Pretty bolts, grooves, bottles, plaques, rings, and sauces? TSK, 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 TSK. Noon? Do you want to go round and round? Roar. Since I am the one who obtained the human emperor's inheritance and comprehended the ethereal true comprehension, how could I possibly hand it over to you? You have to think of a way to become stronger, think of a way to protect yourself. Luo also saw that for Su Fang now, it was like a piece of fat meat, with tigers, leopards and jackals eyeing it covetously. At that moment the formation before them shattered. It was actually shattered by Lin Yihan. Qi. Huang Fu Fei was so shocked that he released an even stronger aura to protect Su Fang. Together with the surrounding higher-ups, they slowly retreated. Disciples of Star Palace, don't die in vain. I have killed countless people. In front of me, Star Palace is just a force. After shattering the sword formation created by thousands of people, Lin Yihan's supreme-grade golden armor Dao artifact, coupled with his strength, the divine power of his punch was indescribable. One had to know that most of the elders could only use upper-grade Dao artifact. Even the elders could not use the power of a supreme-grade Dao artifact. I will not let you succeed. Although Star Palace is a force and cannot be compared to the Great World, we are not pushovers. Yu Ling Tian attacked again. This time, he actually used a supreme-grade Dao artifact. It was a black divine sword that looked very heavy, like a heavy sword. It was somewhat similar to the edgeless sword that Su Fang used in the lower world back then. The treasured sword, Hidden Edge, was definitely a divine weapon. Do you think that by taking out a supreme-grade Dao artifact, you can stop me, Yu Ling Tian? You are a junior. Unfortunately, you do not have the strength to continuously use supreme-grade Dao artifact. Humph, take my punch. Seeing Yu Ling Tian intercepting him, Lin Yihan was filled with anger. However, he raised the corner of his mouth, mocking and ridiculing. Swoosh. Yu Ling Tian attacked with his sword. The divine power of the supreme-grade Dao artifact surged and burned in midair. The sword aura directly shattered the space. Lin Yihan, who came out, activated the armor on his body. His punch seemed to condense all the surrounding power. Emperor's fist, boundless divine power. Ba. Boom. The two peerless experts, surpassing the surrounding disciples of Star Palace, fought with their sword and fist in the sky. The stars intertwined, and the aura was like a tide. After a series of explosions, Yu Ling Tian was once again hit by the formation. This time, he was more thoroughly injured. He seemed to have the ability to defend himself, but he did not even have the strength to grab the supreme-grade flying sword. Yu Ling Tian. Outyen Zhanhen stepped forward in time to protect Yu Ling Tian. Another person has come. Tell me your name. In the explosion, the sword aura was shattered, but Lin Yihan was still leisurely walking forward. Yu Ling Tian coughed out blood and grabbed Outyen Zhanhen's arms tightly. Be careful, brother. This person is too strong. His emperor's qi has perfectly fused with the armor. Go and rest first. Outyen Zhanhen's aura pushed Yu Ling Tian down, and a disciple immediately went to protect him. He turned and looked at Lin Yihan. I am Outyen Zhanhen. Outyen Zhanhen, you seem to be quite strong, but why do I have no memory of you? Could it be that you are a new elder? That's right. I am a new elder. I only became an elder 100,000 years ago. Then you have only cultivated for 200,000 years. Lin Yihan shook his head and sneered. You are not my opponent. I have cultivated for many times longer than you, almost 1,000,000 years. Today, I am not here to kill an elder of the constellation of 9 heavens. I am here to take away a disciple. If you know what is good for you, move aside. You are indeed an unparalleled expert. If I am not wrong, with such Emperor's Qi and the Qi of the immortal Ao Great World, only the legendary Emperor Ning's residence has an expert like you. You must be from the Emperor Ning's residence, right? Lin Yihan laughed but did not say anything. Emperor Ning's residence. Outyin Zhanhan's words made many disciples of the Star Palace turn numb, especially those who were fighting with the black-clothed men. They were so frightened that they kept trembling. Outyin Zhanhan was neither servile nor overbearing. My Star Palace is nothing in front of your Emperor Ning's residence. However, my sect will not let anyone take away a disciple for nothing. You cultivate the Emperor's Tao, while my Star Palace cultivates the Tao of stars. I have been in seclusion for 100,000 years and have some understanding of the Tao of stars. Today, I am fortunate to be able to receive your guidance. One punch. Lin Yihan extended his index finger. Let's see who's better. In the blink of an eye, proud Heaven Chanting's hands flashed with numerous incantation seals. Then, it felt as if his entire body had turned illusory and ethereal. He really does have the ability to fuse with heaven and earth to a shocking degree. Behind him, he also activated his golden armor. An Emperor's Qi wrapped around his right arm and suddenly flashed out. It was like a golden flame figure was charging through the destructive aura like a wild beast. Rustle. Lin Yihan's speed was like thunder, shattering any resistance in the surrounding space. The Emperor Qi on his body made him look like a god that had descended to the mortal world to hunt down demons and ghosts. Proud heaven-chanting hatred also flashed out like a breeze. Unlike his opponent's aura, proud heaven-chanting hatred's aura seemed to be able to merge with the surrounding nature. Proud heaven-agonizing hatred clenched his fist and clenched it into a fist of his own. At the same time, he and Lin Yihan suddenly felt as if all of the auras in the air were pressing down on Lin Yihan. Pung! Their fists collided. A divine pressure seemed to be constantly suppressing Lin Yihan's magic power and aura. Wearing his golden armor, he looked at proud heaven-chanting hatred in surprise. The younger generation truly surpasses us in time. I've cultivated for nearly 1,000,000 years, but you've only cultivated for a little over 100,000 years. Pow! When he finished speaking, proud heaven-chanting hatred was forced back several steps. As for Lin Yihan, he had only taken a single step back. However, proud heaven-chanting hatred wasn't like Yu Lingtian, who had been heavily injured. However, proud heaven-chanting hatred's divine light was no longer as profound. A strand of hair had reached his temples, making him seem much older. Rumor has it that cultivators who cultivate the Emperor Tao are innately domineering. You truly are powerful. I, proud Heaven Wuhan, have only been defeated twice in my life. This is the second time. You're not my match. Your defeat is only natural. Lin Yihan condensed his qi and took another step forward. His target was the Su Fong floating 1,000 meters behind him. If I had more time, you've cultivated for nearly 1,000,000 years. I'd only need 300,000 years to defeat you. Proud heaven-chanting hatred looked at him helplessly. Unfortunately, heaven won't give you the chance. By the time you've cultivated for 300,000 years, I'll have become a supreme immortal emperor. Lin Yihan smiled domineeringly. Be careful. At that moment, many Star Palace disciples behind him felt their hearts turn cold. When they saw Lin Yihan walking over, and even the powerful proud heaven-chanting hatred wasn't his match, they were terrified. I've heard that someone is ignoring Star Palace. Just as Lin Yihan was ignoring everyone, an old voice suddenly came from the deep space of the wasteland. An expert from our sect. Countless disciples of Star Palace heard it. The voice and aura were filled with the origin of Star Palace. Su Fong couldn't help but look over. In the deep space of the wasteland, there was an old man flying through the air. When he saw the old man, he felt that he was familiar. When he looked again, it was the great elder of Star Palace. He had appeared once in the 10,000 years competition. Unexpectedly. Expert. Even Lin Yihan stopped in his tracks. An old man in a star robe flew into everyone's sight. He stroked his white beard and cupped his fists at Lin Yihan. Emperor Ning's mansion and Star Palace aren't friends, but we aren't enemies either. I've been to Emperor Ning's mansion a few times. You're Lin Yihan, an expert under Emperor Ning, aren't you? Seems like Star Palace has some tricks up their sleeves. You've figured out my identity in such a short time. Your Excellency's cultivation and strength are about the same as mine. However, you are alone while there are 100,000 disciples and countless elites here. Once I activate my formation, you, Lin Yihan, will not be a match for me. Why don't you kill until you are satisfied? My disciples will not be handed over. If Your Excellency continues to be so aggressive, it will be difficult for Your Excellency to leave here alive today. Ha! After Lin Yihan heard, he suddenly condensed his aura and stood with his hands behind his back. His divine light instantly locked onto Su Fong, who was behind everyone. Today, I, Lin Yihan, am only representing myself, not Emperor Ning. I'm just warming up with Star Palace. Next time, when I come to Star Palace, I'll be representing Emperor Ning. I'll give you some time to prepare. Let's go. He raised his arm and shouted. The men in black who were fighting with Star Palace immediately flew to Star Wasteland from the broken formation with the arrogant Lin Yihan. Chapter 1159. Emperor Ning Mansion. Many Star Palace disciples treated Lin Yihan and the others as the plague. Tiger roar, dragon roar. More than 60 experts. Half of the black-clothed men left. However, almost half of them were besieged by the experts from Star Palace. Huangfu Elder and masked Long Xiaojun kept fighting. Long Xiaojun had gathered the experts behind him. It seemed that the departure of Emperor Ning Mansion's people made him want to retreat, especially when a large number of Star Palace experts rushed over. Tens of thousands of disciples formed a formation. With the help of the elders, it would not be difficult to kill them. Long Xiaojun suddenly turned and charged into the black-clothed men. He separated his hands and unleashed a shocking and peerless hand seal. The 20 or so black-clothed people were led by Long Xiaojun. Suddenly, as Elder Huangfu chased after him, a giant golden dragon that was hundreds of meters tall condensed around the 20 or so black-clothed people, protecting Long Xiaojun. The giant dragon soared into the sky, giving off a terrifying aura. The dragon swept its body, and a large number of Star Palace experts were blown away. The giant dragon protected the group and tried to escape. Could this be? Huangfu Elder was attracted by the divine dragon and suddenly made a hand print. The surrounding experts also gave up. Don't chase a cornered enemy. Yu Lingtian and Aotian Chanhen flew over. Many Star Palace experts and disciples landed and watched the divine dragon swim into the depths of the wasteland. Huangfu Elder stared at the other two elders. I can see it. In our immortal domain, it is said that only the immortal Ao Great World's heavenly Tao immortal world has the divine dragon's divine ability. It is said that immortal Emperor Tian Ang is the reincarnation of the divine dragon. If it is not the heavenly Tao immortal world, they would not come here openly. One from Emperor Ning Mansion, one from heavenly Tao immortal world, they are all here for the ethereal enlightenment. The problem is very serious. It is said that many people wanted the ethereal enlightenment and caused a bloody storm. Now the ethereal enlightenment has appeared in our sect. After the three experts confirmed that the other party was far away, they turned around and focused their attention on Su Fong. You are now in the limelight. Wait until everyone in the immortal domain knows about you. Huang Fu Fei, who was protecting Su Fang, retracted his aura. The surrounding experts also heaved a sigh of relief. Come with me. If someone attacks you again, I will protect you. Huang Fu Fei took out the divine power of a special disciple. Su Fang had no choice but to bite the bullet and follow her to the other side of the array. Inside the formation, Huang Fu Fei sat down cross-legged. Su Fang calmed down. Suddenly, a huge question mark appeared in his mind. The tranquil emperor's residence and the heavenly law immortal realm came for me. No, not for me, but for the ethereal enlightenment in my body. Back then, Emperor Ning's mansion sent people to the surroundings of Star Palace to look for me secretly. At that time, I was cultivating ethereal enlightenment and there was no heavenly omen. Hence, they shouldn't know that it was me. But how did they find Star Palace? After thinking about it for a long time, there is only one possibility. When I was in the worldlet, the immortals who came to the mortal world to deal with me, especially the immortal force behind the Xinyuan Empire, should have informed the macro world. That is to say, the force behind the Xinyuan Empire in the macro world was Emperor Ning's mansion. Understood. Suddenly, everything was clear. This time, Emperor Ning's residence came openly. It seemed to be a coincidence, but in fact, it wasn't. Back then, when the human emperor cultivated ethereal enlightenment and attracted heavenly omen, he was hunted down by Emperor Ning's residence. For so many years, they had been looking for ethereal enlightenment and cultivating spies in the mortal world. From the moment ethereal enlightenment fell into Su Fang's hands, they were destined to be enemies with Emperor Ning's residence. Of course, there was also the heavenly law immortal realm. At this moment, in a dangerous place far away from Huang Zhe Astral, in a valley shrouded in star fog, Huang Lingyao flew into the valley. Long Xiaojun personally came to welcome her. Long Xiaojun's face was a little pale. Huang Lingyao said with concern, "As soon as I heard about what happened in Star Palace, I came immediately. The higher-ups of Tiandao White Sun Sect all know that it was you who did it. They asked me to come and ask about the situation. If you need help, Tiandao White Sun Sect will do our best." No, Tiandao White Sun Sect has always been in contact with the constellation of 9 heavens. This relationship can't be strained. This time, I didn't expect so many elders of Star Palace to come. I also didn't expect Yen Mo from Emperor Ning's residence to invite Lin Yihan. It should be Emperor Ning who sent him. Fortunately, he didn't succeed. The two of them floated in the fog. Long Xiaojun gritted his teeth. In the past, the ethereal true solution caused a heavenly omen in my immortal Ao great world. Many big shots tried to snatch it. Emperor Ning and my father almost fought with each other. I can't wait for Lin Yihan to come back. But Star Palace doesn't want to make enemies with Emperor Ning's residence or Tiandao immortal world. You're a genius. In the future, you'll definitely become Emperor Ning. And I'll help you to become stronger. I have Yunxiao's Thunder Sword. As long as I have time, once I master it, even Emperor Ning won't be able to touch it. Huang Lingyao's expression was like a man's heroic spirit. That's a story for later. As long as immortal Ao Great World exists, Long family and Emperor Ning's residence will have a result sooner or later. Now I have to think of a way to capture Huang Fu Xiaoying, a Xian immortal cultivator from Star Palace who has the ethereal true solution. I came here for this person. For Huang Fu Xiaoying. Young Master Long heard something. When the heavenly omen explosion happened, White Sun Sect of Sky Law immediately sent people to inquire about it. When I saw Huang Fu Xiaoying, I found out that he was an acquaintance of mine when I was cultivating in the lower world. An acquaintance. Long Xiaojun was even more curious. This person is not Huang Fu Xiaoying. His real name is Su Fang. He came from the lower world and ascended to the great world at about the same time as me. This person Huang Lingyao told Long Xiaojun almost everything about Su Fang in Celestial Sealing Sect and other small worlds, as well as Su Fang's cultivation history. But she also hid some things from Long Xiaojun. After listening to her, Long Xiaojun frowned for a while, then rubbed his hands. It seems that your small world is really full of talents. Every one of them is not simple. Only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you get the ethereal enlightenment. I have to go back and discuss this with my father. I reckon that Emperor Ning's residents will try their best to get this person. Of course, once the news of the ethereal enlightenment spreads to the entire immortal region, it will be even more lively. Lingyao will help you. This Su Fang is at the end of his life. He has offended so many people, and he is a disciple of the constellation of 9 heavens. After the two of them discussed for a while, Huang Lingyao left alone. She probably could not calm down. After resting for a few days, Su Fang's state of mind improved. But after this incident, all the disciples of Star Palace in the wasteland were talking about it. On this day, Huang Fu Fei brought Su Fang to meet the elders. The great elder was in charge of the formation. Ao Tian, Zhang Hen, Yu Ling Tian, Elder Huang Fu and more than 10 other elders sat on both sides. Huang Fu Xiaoying, you are a disciple of our Huang Fu training hall. Now that you have unexpectedly obtained the ethereal enlightenment, there will definitely be many people eyeing you, wanting to get the ethereal enlightenment. Elder Huang Fu spoke first. Obviously, they had already discussed it. The incident at the Great Emperor's Mausoleum is not over yet, and now this incident has happened. Now, the sect can only deal with the wasteland first. You should return to the sect first, because none of us have absolute confidence to guarantee your safety here. Those who are looking for you are all the top forces in the immortal Ao Great World. Their overall strength is greater than our sect's. I will listen to the sect's arrangements. Su Fang bowed to everyone. Elder. 2 figures came in. It was Hen Buhui and Jun Bujian. The great elder looked at the two. The two of you will immediately escort Huang Fu Xiaoying back to the sect. This is a secret mission. Only you and the higher-ups know. Be careful along the way. I wanted to send more people to protect you, but too many people will be an eyesore. I promise to complete the mission. The 2 disciples accepted the order. Su Fang also took his leave. This matter does not only concern the Tranquility Emperor's residence and the Heavenly Tao immortal realm, but the entire immortal domain. In this way, our constellation of 9 heavens appears weak. We have to go back and discuss a response. Later, send a group of people led by Elder Ao Tian. They will pretend to be escorting Huang Fu Xiaoying. Yes. The higher-ups were indeed the higher-ups. They had prepared many methods to greet Su Fang. After all, Su Fang's influence and importance had already surpassed that of a core disciple. Even a special disciple was nothing before him. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, a shuttling formation left the constellation of 9 heavens camp, passed through the heaven and earth star fog, and gradually left the abyss. After a while, the shuttling formation disappeared completely. Su Fang, Hen Buhui and Jun Buhui appeared together. The 3 of them were not dressed like disciples of Star Palace. Looking around, Jun Buhui's eyebrows were sharp like swords and he looked solemn. Since the higher-ups have asked us to protect you, you have to listen to us. Don't simply activate your aura. Hen Buhui suddenly shook his head. Brother, he dealt with the black-clothed people just now. It means that he has some methods. Master also said that he is not the ordinary disciple we knew. The mission is carried out by us. Jun Bai added another sentence, as if he was being unreasonable. Su Fang listened to the two's arrangement and quietly flew to the edge of Huang Zhe astral world. Of course, Su Fang also secretly transmitted to the Lord of 5 Poisons, Li Haojie, Dai, and the others. Only then could he leave Huang Zhe astral world without worry. I originally wanted to meet the Prince of Divine Palace in the wasteland. After all, the boundless secular palace has a certain connection with the purple cloud Dharma spirit. With many thoughts, he kept silent and gradually disappeared into the wasteland. 10 years later, the constellation of 9 heavens. Finally back. This was probably the only voice in Su Fong, Jun Bufei, and Hen Buhui's hearts. Before he stepped into the danger zone, hundreds of experts flew over from the cold and silent world. They were here to protect Su Fong as he smoothly returned to the constellation of 9 heavens. They felt that Su Fong was a big shot. Most of the experts who came to welcome him were special disciples. After passing through the formation, they saw Master Luan and a few experts waiting. Xiaoying, the great elder, sent a message long ago. When you return to the sect, cultivate in the special training ground. Rest well and don't think too much. The high and mighty elders in the past were now taking care of Su Fong. After bowing, Su Fong followed Master Luan into the shuttling formation under the envy of many. Jun Bufei and Hen Buhui were relieved. What kind of place was the special training ground? He had been there once, but it was not a real cultivation ground. But this time, Master Luan brought him through for a while and suddenly arrived above the desolate ruins. After forming a seal, a passageway appeared from the ruins. Su Fong followed him through the passageway and found out that the special training ground for the special disciples was actually underground. During this time, he sensed the aura of many special disciples. In less than 10 breaths, after walking out of the formation, a cold and huge desolate cave appeared in front of him. Although it was desolate, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth was unusually abundant. Master Luan told him to cultivate and rest here. If there was anything, he could inform him directly. Su Fong wanted to return to the treasure arcane realm. After all, he needed to absorb the great pregnant purple qi. But seeing so much spiritual qi, he could use it to fuse many magic treasures. It was a rare opportunity, so he accepted the sect's arrangement. Chapter 1160. He never expected the special dojo to be built in the depths of the ruins. When Su Fong sat down cross-legged, he released his perfect circle sensing ability. Gradually, he could only sense up to a distance of 10 miles. Anything beyond that, he could no longer sense. Within this range, he didn't sense any cultivators. The special dojo was probably huge to begin with. Every disciple could abandon all distracting thoughts and cultivate in the depths of the ruins. Fortunately, there was a large amount of spiritual energy. However, to control the spiritual energy, he had to use the 9 heavenly stars minor art. Other cultivation techniques couldn't do it. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth was cold. Under his sensing ability, it was in the form of ice cubes. Su Fong used the minor art on one hand and the ethereal true scripture on the other. As expected, the Tao runes of the ethereal true scripture were even better at controlling the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. When absorbing the spiritual energy, he also channeled it into the Yellow Spring Great Emperor bottle and the Void Dust Cauldron. When he reached a certain state, he had to unlock a seal. It was sealed in the depths of his divine aperture. It was the mysterious Tao runes that came from the heavenly omen that the ethereal true scripture had attracted. The ethereal true scripture must have a different cultivation technique or some kind of divine ability. As expected, when he entered the Tao runes, all the Tao runes were unfamiliar to him. After scanning with his powerful primordial spirit, he finally found a divine ability. It was a peerless divine ability that came from the ethereal true scripture. The ethereal primordial realm. What kind of divine ability was this? It wasn't a fist technique or a sword technique. However, when Su Fong fully understood it, he realized that the ethereal primordial realm also contained enveloping attack. In general, it was a divine ability that was similar to a domain. Domains were different. It was an ability that immortals would possess when they reached a certain realm. Through cultivation, the domain would become stronger. The ethereal primordial realm had more abilities than a domain. It used the essence of heaven and earth and the power of the stars. It used the ethereal true scriptures Tao of the void to build a space similar to a domain in the void. Cultivators could also use their domains in the void, but they wouldn't be able to maintain it for long. The ethereal primordial realm, on the other hand, was built on supernatural powers and nature. It made use of the Tao of the void and the real, as well as material and power to create a real space. It's amazing. It seems that the ethereal spiritual master's ability to build matter in the void wasn't a lie. The ethereal primordial realm can prove this point. Who would have thought that such a divine ability would appear after the ethereal true dispelling heavenly omens? Combined with the ethereal 10,000 laws Tao that the human emperor had comprehended, he was able to master this ability even more. It was estimated that when the human sovereign attracted the heavenly omen, his situation was similar to Su Fang's. He didn't have time to study it and only left behind the ethereal way of the 10,000 laws that he had comprehended before he was killed by the strong. The ethereal myriad law Tao was, in fact, the illusory divine ability that Su Fang had been cultivating. Now that the ethereal primordial realm had appeared in the ethereal quintessence, the two could be fused together, allowing Su Fang to cultivate a divine ability that transcended domains. During this period of time, I first obtained the great emperor's inheritance, many treasures, and cultivation technique. Now I'm in the ethereal primordial realm. I need time. Now that I'm in this special dojo, I'll cultivate in peace without thinking about anything else. Once I've integrated everything, I'll absorb the primordial purple chi. Besides, the third portion of the purple chi Dharma spirit is in the hands of immortal Emperor Tian Ong of the heavenly Tao immortal world. Without strength, I won't be able to retrieve the purple chi Dharma spirit from him. He pondered for a moment. Su Fang calmed himself down completely. He wouldn't cultivate in the ethereal primordial realm for now. He wanted to master the Netherworld Emperor's ethereal samsara art. He used the Netherworld samsara arts in his body according to the Netherworld samsara arts and absorbed all the yang qi in his body. He didn't expect that a divine power that operated like the yin-yang Tao wheel would instantly fuse with the yin-yang Tao wheel. As a result, the speed of the yin-yang Tao wheel's operation increased more than twofold. This divine power, Su Fang sensed it carefully. It was the result of him using the samsara art. He couldn't understand why he could unleash the divine power of the Netherworld samsara arts when he had never cultivated the samsara art. Was the samsara arts not difficult for him at all? After staring at it for a while, coupled with his mastery of the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace, Su Fang suddenly realized that the overall operation of the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace and the World Fragment had a divine power that was similar to the samsara art. After thinking about it, he decided to ask Law. Law quickly had an answer after hearing it. This is one of the abilities of the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace. A person with a godhead who can possess the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace must have extraordinary and mysterious abilities. I didn't cultivate the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace back then, but I heard that godheads who possess the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace naturally have many abilities that are similar to the desolate body, Tao body, and divine body. Furthermore, it has something to do with your devouring of Yu Jingyan's Tao body. Somehow, your body already contains the divine power of reincarnation. After obtaining Law's answer, Su Fang still didn't understand. Although he didn't understand, he could sense many similarities from the operation of the yin-yang Tao wheel. It seemed that he still had to continue cultivating before he could finally understand Law's word. By constantly activating the Netherworld samsara arts, the speed of his chi increased by almost 2 times. His cultivation speed increased by another step. Furthermore, the samsara sword that was fusing also released its divine power, allowing Su Fang to enter the sword's inner world. Curious, he entered the sword's inner world. He didn't expect the divine sword's space to be so vast. There were probably tens of thousands of arrays that intertwined to form various divine seals, ultimately allowing the samsara sword to possess astonishing divine power and power. By activating the netherworld samsara arts, it was easier to control the samsara sword. The two complemented each other. Immortal blood spirit. Suddenly, he found a cultivation technique in the samsara sword. The sword spirit said that the netherworld great emperor had sealed it within. He was worried that this cultivation technique would fall into the hands of demonic, evil, or righteous cultivators and bring disaster to the world. After looking at it, Su Fang didn't dare to cultivate the immortal blood spirit. This cultivation technique was built on the netherworld blood sea. He could cultivate it, but after cultivating it, he couldn't easily refine the immortal blood spirit. Most importantly, once the immortal blood spirit reappeared, it would probably be sensed by the world's will. It would be troublesome then. On the other hand, the netherworld great emperor hadn't cultivated the immortal blood spirit to the extreme. The cultivation technique was incomplete. If he couldn't completely master it, it would bring many inconveniences to his cultivation. Su Fang couldn't cultivate the immortal blood spirit alone, but he could use this method to control the blood sea in the netherworld blood sea to cultivate the netherworld blood sea. The netherworld true body is actually the perfect state of the netherworld blood sea. When the netherworld great emperor cultivated the netherworld true body, he used the power of the true body to refine the immortal blood spirit. Unfortunately, the great emperor couldn't control it in the end. After a while, he finally understood the connection between the netherworld blood sea and the immortal blood spirit. It's not easy to fuse 4 supreme-grade pill cauldrons. The pill cauldrons are more important than the heavenly creation cauldron. The big goblin under my command needs the yin-yang immortal sky pill. His strength kept increasing and had reached the normal state of the mystic immortal realm. Su Fang began to shift his focus to fusing magic treasures, including the netherworld samsara sword. Time was too important to him. He felt that even 10,000 years wouldn't be enough. Fortunately, after cultivating the netherworld samsara arts, his cultivation speed increased. If this continued, his overall strength would continue to increase. In the netherworld great emperor's bottle, all the experts followed Su Fang out of the abyss space. They were now cultivating at ease, trying their best to let everyone cultivate the great fusion divine skill and alchemy skills. They cultivated for 5 years. Suddenly, Luan Tian Master and Elder Huangfu came to the special training ground and brought Su Fang out of the underground training ground. I wonder how Star Palace will deal with me. In the process of shuttling through the formation channel, Su Fang's thoughts kept flashing. He really wanted to know what Star Palace was thinking. Immortal Chang Gu also didn't know what the higher-ups were planning. Although he was an elder, he wasn't as good as Elder Huangfu in some aspects. If Star Palace wants you to hand over the secret of the ethereal true solution, what will you do? Even Law was concerned about this matter. What will I do? If Star Palace really treats me as a disciple, then I'll treat Star Palace as a sect. If they don't treat me as a disciple, then it's meaningless for me to stay in Star Palace. You have to plan for many things. Law's tone was very calm. He obviously knew that Su Fang should have the ability to handle this matter. After shuttling for a while, they arrived at a palace on top of a mountain deep in the special training ground. In the palace, there were higher-ups like Yu Ling Tian and Ao Tian Changhen. There were also great elders and elder of punishment. Moreover, there was more than one great elder. Su Fang felt that there were quite a number of elders there. Their abilities were at the same level as Lin Yihan from Emperor Ning's mansion. However, in terms of fighting power, Lin Yihan definitely had the advantage. Great elder, elder of punishment and many other higher-ups. There were more than 20 of them. Su Fang only knew a few of them. There were also a few other elders from the 9 training grounds of Star Palace. Luan Tian Master let Su Fang stand in the middle while he and Elder Huangfu sat down at the side. At this moment, Everyone's eyes fell on Su Fang. At this moment, everyone wanted to see clearly what was going on inside his body. However, it wasn't pressure. Instead, it was natural to sense Su Fang's body. Among the three great elders, one of them was the one who appeared in the crater and forced Lin Yihan away. He first praised, outstanding aptitude. His body's vitality is extraordinary. It's 3 to 5 times stronger than an ordinary Xian, immortal first Tao realm disciple. This way, he can store more genuine qi and perform supernatural powers. Another ascender. According to Brother Luan, he could refine a lower-grade magic treasure after only being in the treasure secret land for a few decades. He's a genius. And when he fought against the experts from Emperor Ning's mansion and Tian Dao Immortal World, he used a special poison. The other two great elders were full of praise. At this point, Elder Huangfu raised his voice and said, "Disciple Huangfu Shaoying started out in our Taoist temple. He's extraordinary. One day, he'll definitely become one of the pillars of our sect." One of the other great elders couldn't appreciate Su Fang. "Our sect has been around for so many years, and has faced so many storms. But this time, it's about the ethereal true scripture. I bet the other powers in the immortal domains will soon learn about it. When the time comes, they'll put pressure on our sect, and we'll be wiped out." In the history of our world, it's not uncommon to see things like this happen. Just because of a magical treasure or a consummate energy art, many organizations have been wiped out. Does anyone have any ideas about how to help our sect keep the ethereal true scripture? If Huangfu Shaoying can master it, it'll be of great help to our sect. Ideas. For the past few years, we've been trying to come up with a solution. Actually, the most effective solution would be to ally with a major power with a strong background. The two sects would jointly control the ethereal true insight. This way, the two powers would be able to support each other. Even the Tranquility Emperor's residence and the Heavenly Tao Immortal World would have to be cautious. Join forces? What kind of alliance would that be? The ethereal true scripture is the property of our sect. We can't just casually share it with others. That's why we need to think of something. In my opinion, we should still use the old method, which is to form a marriage alliance. Let Huangfu Shaoying be a female disciple of a major power who is close to us and has a powerful background, and become Taoist companions. In this way, the two great sects will truly form an alliance because of the two disciples' Taoist companions. The upper echelons of the sect fell into deep discussion. Presumably, there had been many such meetings in the past, so it didn't take long for them to come up with an idea. Marriage alliance. Author's words. I bid farewell to 2015, but I'm not feeling very good about it. If only I had a brother who was a fan of this book, he'd be drinking with me right now. After 3 cups, I'd be drunk. I wish everyone all the best in the new year. Coincidentally, the main character, Su Fang, was also getting married. What a coincidence!